Advantage and then goes short back to HORNE-FRANCIS, who has been everywhere.
Final kick inside 50. And the Power take another step towards the double chance. Port Adelaide win 4 in a row. They're travelling nicely in the race for September, while the D's look done for 2024.
We got the power to win, power to roll. Come on, Port Adelaide aggression. We are the power from...
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. My name is Dave, and as always, thank you for joining us. Quick note before we get into things today, as we get to reviewing a small win over Melbourne. Just a note to plug our Patreon. We just recorded the second of our 2004 retrospective episodes on just last Friday afternoon. I need a good week or two on the edit, as I discovered last episode, so it should drop around the end of the minor round season, if not before. There is an episode 1 already available there now, the episode that we recorded last month and released, covering all of the minor round 2004 and some of the storylines leading into that year as well. So that'll be dropping then. Also, I will be raffling off the Travis Boak signed rookie card this weekend. I meant to do it over the last weekend, but then completely forgot to post about it as I was getting ready for the Melbourne game. So I'm going to do that this weekend. So I'll do a post on the socials about that tomorrow. But if you're listening then and you're not already signed up for Patreon, then you can get signed up and be in the running for a Travis Boak rookie card. So it's a signed rookie card from Select AFL from 2007. He looks all nice and boyish and baby-faced on there. And it's got his signature on there as well. So that'll be done. Patreon.com/thecreed1870. Anyway, to matters at hand, your Port Adelaide Footy Club has defied the odds of many games across the past few weeks, but only just getting the job done by the finest of margins in a gruelling trench battle of a game, finally getting over the line 7-11-53 to 7-9-51 after what was quite the turgid match, but a lot of intriguing points to it. A display in direct contrast to the incredible game at Adelaide Oval last weekend, yet the result is all the same, 4 points, and our destiny for top 4 seeding still well and truly in our hands at this stage. Jamie, as finals increasingly loom large, our Port boys just keep finding ways to get the job done, even if it is in stark contrast to weeks previous.
Yeah, wasn't that a painful watch? Hello, Dave. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm sure we wouldn't be alone in saying that, we thought it was probably going to be a comfortable win. And then as what's happened a few times this year, it's brought about a different result. And really, in hindsight, with Melbourne having no other option but to play for their season, because they were still a slim chance of finals, they were going to put it all out on the line. They've got a lot of pride, as we spoke about in the preview. They've still got a litany of premiership players in. I think there was 1 or 2 magnets that I didn't expect to play, most notably Salem. He had an okay game, but Gawn wasn't as affected by his leg injury as I thought he was going to be. So, yeah, look, nothing to write home about, but we get another away win, another win on the road. We take the 4 points and we lifted that spot, which is something that I noted about in the preview as well, with Brisbane, fortunately for us, dropping the bundle against GWS. So, yeah, interested to talk about this game, although not as many highlights as the week prior, for sure.
Yeah. I guess we can start on a highlight, though, and just talk about one individual in particular. I'm sure it'll come up later in segments as well, but I think it's worth noting and just starting off on a positive before we get into some of the not so negatives, just constructive criticisms and whatnot that we do week to week. But I put out the post the morning after the game. I was just so in awe of Jason HORNE-FRANCIS's game that I did a little graphic just calling him a game breaker. And that's just all like that's what he was. Like at the start, it was kicking goals. Late, it was taking defensive marks and tackling. And I really loved Kath Lognan on who's filling in for Waitley on AFL 360 at the moment. She on Monday night's show. She just said, I feel like he had the ball like 10 times in the last 5 minutes of the game. And that's kind of the aura that Jason HORNE-FRANCIS plays with, and especially when he's in that form, he's just ever present. Like he's taking a defensive mark, and then the next time there's a stoppage on the wing, he's the one out the back of the pack waiting for it. And then he ends up taking a mark and on the half forward flank and like 30 seconds later again. So he's just up and back and all. And really good to see his tank again. I think we've mentioned this a couple of times this year that his tank seems much improved over last year, and with the continuing ongoing progression away from his injury concerns early or surgeries and whatnot that he had, but just a game breaker in all facets. The marks, it was an incredible, like 13 marks for a like a player that play. It's like we used to get really excited when Warren Treadwell would take those kind of marks, that number of marks in games back in the day. I remember him taking 14, 15. It was like, oh, Treadwell was imperious with his 15 marks in the day, and you got Jason Horne-Francis, and he's doing it at both ends. It was incredible.
Yeah, incredible is probably a good way to put it. He just doesn't give in. He's endearing himself to all Port Adelaide supporters, and he already had. He didn't need to, but he just furthers that point. It was funny though. You mentioned his tank, and he was on. Was it 5AA last week? He did the rep media rounds last week, and I think he was speaking to Rowie and Timmy on 5AA, and they were asking him about his forward midfield split, and he said it's about half. And basically who makes the call for when he goes forward. And he was saying that he generally does, and it's generally, when he's feeling a bit gassed, and he made a joke, a bit self-deprecating, and probably putting some mayo on it by being self-deprecating, saying that it's pretty, like, he gets gassed pretty quickly or easily. And it was interesting. It was another one of those comments where it's like, well, your actions probably show that the other way, like you said, like, it seems that his tank has actually improved from his first couple of years, but maybe it was just a bit of extra self-deprecation and being coy. But he seems to be running games out pretty well and impacting later in games, which kind of goes against that notion. Or maybe he's just managing his tank effectively by splitting between forward and mid to allow himself to be able to impact later in games. It's quite fascinating because he did bob up with a couple of goals early to keep us there and thereabouts in the early stages.
Yeah, and again, his marking down forward is really good, and he's leading both goals. I mean, the first one was pretty, I guess, regular, being directly out in front, but the fact, like, those around the corner ones he can do if he's in a certain range in a pocket, if he's a bit further out, then sometimes he can get a bit wayward, but he seems to have a range where he's 20 to 30 out on a decent angle. He just has the form and understands what he's got to do, and he gets that second one that he got through. But I guess the tank thing, it might be that we feel it's better because he is spending time, like, they're just managing his time up forward and stuff so perfectly that we just see him be ever present. So it's kind of like what we're seeing versus what we actually know of the internal management of his time. And if he's up forward, then he's obviously resting a bit compared to gut busting through the middle. But it felt like I saw him run through the middle a fair bit too, or just end up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then especially those last 5-10 minutes when it felt like every time the ball was in one of the arcs, he was somehow there, and then in the middle as well. So a game-winning performance in how those defensive marks or the marks in the last 5 minutes. But then even he took the ball in a stoppage and got tackled high as he's trying to and breaking through contact. So he's winning the ball in all sorts of ways in that last 5 minutes. And we tied the game with 6 minutes 40 to go. It was 7-9 to 7-9. And we obviously kicked the 2 points, which were two more, I guess, a slight segue, but there's something to go on to. I thought the 2 points that we scored that ultimately won the game after we tied it up were the most incredible game, like, points of, because the first one's when Narkle, tries to keep it in.
Tries to keep it in. Yeah, that's right.
That's the go-ahead point. And then the next point is when there's the ball comes. I can't remember who kicks it in, but Burgoyne. I was about to say Burgoyne takes what looks like a mark on the line, and Burgoyne's arguing. It was one of those ones I was like, I feel like if it got called, then you're like, you take it, but then it doesn't. It's like it's a 50-50 in
I
amount.
think it's pretty lucky if that's being called a mark.
Yeah,
never really.
But we've seen it called plenty.
Should have, like, the amount of, like, touch he had on it, he should have controlled it, but in the end, not enough. Which was an interesting night for Jace. Unlucky to to give up a goal after being pushed in the back earlier. But yeah, those yeah, you mentioned two of the more fascinating points of the day, and I forgot about the Narkle one, even though I've just watched it. And yeah, it was like, come on, there were so many almost moments for us if we're just focusing on Port Adelaide. There's so many almost moments in the game, and like going back, there was the Tomlinson mark on the line, which, like any other game, it's like over the line, or he's juggling that, and like it's at least a rush behind, or what have you. There was some marks that were just almost there, which would have led to shots on goals. It's just a lot of almost moments, a lot of weird moments throughout the game, which it's just a reflection of how dogged the game unfolded as a whole.
I have it in my notes that the ball bounce was weird all night. Like we just there'd be like Will and Drew, who's generally we've lauded him and how he reads the game. Like there was a ball, and I think it was in our forward 50 that just bounced, and it just took a weird turn, and he just his arms are kind of just suddenly out in front of because he's looking for it. He's just wait, what just happened? And it's just that kind of summed up the night for me as far as just how. Yeah, you have those days, and we had it against Sydney, and I think even more so against a team that probably, because the Sydney game ended up just being a boat race, but the Western Bulldogs game was a real example of just every bounce that we seem to have the ball on the string, so to speak, whereas this game, it felt this game was
when it's really going your way, it tends
just comes to you.
Do that. Like, it's just, again, footy gods, whatever it is, footy luck, just the ball joins you when you've got momentum. It seems like the ball's attracted to you like a magnetic force. It's like, this team's got the momentum, so I'm going to bounce their way. It's just a really funny thing to happen. And it does just seem to always go that way. When you're losing, the ball's not bouncing your way, and when you're winning, the ball's bouncing your way. And I guess that's what you get with an oval-shaped ball. A dynamic sport.
We've certainly had it go our way plenty of times. Call back to the last showdown at Footy Park. It was but I mean, it's a credit to us that we went on and won the game despite all those factors, including we don't like to go into the umpires too much if we don't have to, because there was a Jonathan Brown on the couch quote. It had a really good Lee Matthews quote about excuses are like junk food. They taste great at the time, but the longer you go on, you realize the nourishment really isn't there. And that's kind of like umpires. It's like at the end of the day, you've got to win the game. Like the games are always won and lost on generally your merits. There's really rare examples of the umpires actually costing you a game, because we always look at the last 2 minutes rather than, the Crows last year with the Sydney goal thing. It's like, well, if you went 40 points down going into that quarter, you wouldn't have been dealing with it. But it was frustrating in this one. It's like one of the few and beyond the Max Gawn, I did watch just back a couple of them. I was like, they were there. Like, I didn't watch all of them back. I didn't go on a deep dive into every decision, because I think Gawn had 7 free kicks out of the 24 odd they had,
which are classed as contested possessions.
Yes, because we will get to that as well.
There. Yeah.
But there was a few, because Willem had some great moments.
He did. Bit of bravado from Willem.
We like that. But
yeah, absolutely.
Because he got called for a hold, I think, but then Rosie got held for even longer at one point, and it didn't get called. Like, there was just stuff I was noticing. I'd never get too mad unless I really noticed the inconsistencies, and I think that's what I was noticing a bit. Was there was a call that got called one moment, and 10 minutes later in the game, it just didn't get called at all, and it was. I assume they're saying controlling up, but who knows who it was. But it's just you hope to not notice that so much. And I don't notice it too. I haven't noticed it often that much this year. We call it out here and there.
No.
Funnily enough, we I think we talked about it after the last Melbourne game as
Last Melbourne
well.
game, yeah, I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
There was things like that, and yeah, certainly you could see some frustrations. I mean, the Willem one, I watched it, and you could see him kind of check Oliver after the ball
Yeah.
went away, but it
They did
wasn't.
it.
It
Surprisingly,
wasn't
they
like
didn't
the. It wasn't like
replay it.
yeah, they didn't. I had to flick back and watch it live a couple, and because you're watching it like in the corner of the screen because it's not zoom, like not the camera focused on it. I had to scroll back and watch a couple of times to just see, and even then, I didn't slow it down for myself or anything. I just kept on watching it live. But yeah,
Yeah, the umpires called prohibitive contact there, and like
and the
it looked a
umpire's
bit in the
motion
like a
was
shove
like
in the back.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the
Like
umpire
you've
did the elbow
given him a
motion.
whack.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's just well, and if we've got our rose-colored glasses on, you can't really imagine a player like Willem Drew doing things like that. Or
Mhm.
like to to the extent that it's classed as prohibitive contact, which is kind of puts an extra layer onto it, like of untowardness,
It's a rare one. I don't
akin
hear
to a
it too
strike or
often.
something.
I
Yeah,
had to I had to
yeah,
listen to it a couple of times to hear what he said.
yeah. And look, Oliver wasn't having a great game, so he was definitely putting mail on any opportunity.
That
But
fucking
yeah,
yeah, Jordan
uh,
Sweet's getting a few grand out of his account this week, which that one was actually Willem Drew was involved in that as well because it was if you watch the previous stoppage, which I think was a ball in off the ball, like Willem and Oliver are kind of getting into it. I think it's those two. It could be Butters too because Butters had his moments as well. All fair,
wouldn't surprise me.
Butters getting out of this game without any fines is a miracle in of
Yeah.
itself. Um, but yeah, Willem was off the ball with and Oliver was into him, which he was just doing a bit of that shit all night. And then so yeah, that sweet kind of strike, and I say quotations because that's just
Yeah.
fucking. He sold some magic beans to the umpires in that one. I think. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it was contact there, but
It was a clear shove in the chest. Um, yeah.
but like, don't get
Yeah.
involved
Once
with a bloke that's like got a fucking foot on you, basically. And
once Oliver's retired, he'll look back on that and he'll
mm,
acknowledge that he collapsed like a sack of potatoes.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just it is what it is. Luckily, it didn't cost us a free kick in the moment.
no, no,
I don't recall. So yeah, yeah. Look, I did like you said. I think what we're alluding to, like Sweet v Gorn. I thought it was a great opportunity for Sweet coming
mm,
into the game, thinking that Gorn was very underdone. And look, Gorn might have got a million jabs and just summoned up that kind of extraterrestrial energy, knowing
he's
that their season was on the line. And
yeah, and
yeah,
just to
he played a
interject
great
for a
game.
second,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
he has mentioned in the press since the game, even though they're done for the year, that he wants to keep playing out because he wants to set standards for next year.
For pride. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to what you're about to get into, I was just like that seems to be his mindset, which is respectable
Yeah.
and adds some like more clarity to what we saw on the weekend, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, and as you mentioned before, like a couple of them were there. Sweet, just had a bit of a down game against a premier ruckman. But as a result, the umpires got sucked into their own kind of profession a little bit, and yeah, there was a few 50-50 ones where it just like genuine 50-50, like ruck grappling, and it turned into a ruck lotto. Surprisingly enough, only went one way, and it was kind of like, and then there was a marking contest in the third or fourth quarter, and Gorn dropped the mark. And then just as a result of the contest, he tripped over on his way down to the ground or upon landing on the ground, just purely for the fact that Sweet was behind him and kind of landed on him a little bit. They called it like, I don't
Yeah.
know, a chopping the arms or a holding the man or whatever it was. And it was kind of just like, those are the ones that you get frustrated at because you
Mm.
just let the contest unfold. It is football and there's clashes of bodies and stuff like that. It wasn't, yeah. People are fine with those types of things just being let go because they understand it's a result of football contest. Um, so yeah, with a tight, tense game, things like that just aggravate you even
Yeah.
further. And perhaps if we were further in front or we were playing the game like we might have assumed heading into it, it would really be a non-issue. But the fact that it was a game of inches ultimately just made some of those 50-50 ones and Tiki Touchwood ones all that more annoying.
Mm-hmm. And especially when you look at the likes of, it did seem to be just that they were, like when big men were involved, they were looking for that stuff. And then, yeah, I think you touched on already, like Cozzy Pickett getting one of those goals with a nice shove in the back on Burgoyne, which when I saw it in live motion, I was like, oh, I don't know. Burgoyne was gesticulating a lot more than he usually does. So I thought, oh, maybe he's got something. And then when I saw the replay, I was like, oh, yeah, that was clearly a push in the back. But
yeah, well, Nathan Jones was congratulating a good piece of forward craft. And then at the end, he's like, oh, yeah, it does seem like he's got two hands square in the back there. Like, and look, the Zach Butters one later in the game that led to the Pickett goal. I think it might have been their last goal. That was bit in the backy too, which I think I saw a lot of people commenting on after the game. And yeah, look.
Yeah, I think the commentators again said good.
Yeah, great forward craft for 3-on-1. Yeah. Look, we've surely got our benefit from a couple of those ones, and then even we were talking about Derm saying, when you're 7 goals up, you try your luck in regards to a Georgiades free kick paid against versus Sydney, but. Again, when it's a game of inches, they just all those decisions or non-decisions are amplified. And I thought it was funny.
It was the inconsistency for me. Ultimately, is what I got frustrated. That's when I notice it is when it's inconsistent. Because when the Willem one happened, or when the hold, which again I'm saying it happened for Willem, I could be wrong. But then when one happened that I saw as exactly the same, and we didn't get the call, that's when I notice it. If it's called both ways, even if I don't agree with it, I'm like, cool. Like that's just the way the game's being officiated. It's the same in NFL. It's just like how much hand checking they're allowing, like between receivers and safeties, changes from game to game. But if it's consistent within that singular game, we won thankfully anyway.
Yeah, and look, can't really boil it down to the noise of affirmation because I think the Seagulls outnumbered the amount of Melbourne supporters that were at their grounds. So put that one in the back pocket, and got to give a shout out to the Port Adelaide away crowd because at many stages throughout the game, I think they were the most vocal supporter group at the ground. So, shout out to them. They did a great job, and I think we heard the power chant fire up at some stage.
That last minute, I definitely heard it. Whether it happened at other points, I only turned the game up towards the end because it was obviously on in the middle of the night, which I always watch them pretty quiet. Definitely noticed at the end quite boisterous as well because, again, being a tight game, it was probably a bit, but yeah, Seagull FC out there. I noticed it more in the replay, I think, because, you back off from, I noticed it certainly watching it live, but watching the replay, I was like, Jesus. I actually, shout out, I didn't, Anthony Alessiani in his video today, or in his review, whenever he did it, just made mention of it and just how fucking insane that can make the game as a player on the field as well, which I thought was interesting. I hadn't thought of it from that angle. I just thought it was just annoying for me watching. But
it's something that you just shouldn't have to worry about, but they're just there like all the time. Sometimes on watching the vision back, we were wearing the white Guernsey, and then there was also, the Toyota logo or the sponsorship on the ground. So there was stages throughout the game where we'd kick it somewhere, and I'm like, who have you kicked that to? And then like a Port player would just appear out of the logo of like the behind all the seagulls. It was like, right. The Guernsey is just blending in with the white that's all around. We've got a player there.
It's even just the visual aesthetic of seeing the MCG so empty on TV. It was very jarring, I think. I found it a very weird game aesthetically to watch, it's just funny seeing a team like Melbourne, and it's not like we're talking Melbourne GWS or anything, because I'm not to beat down on the expansion clubs from the last 10, 15 years, but they're the clubs that often do draw the lower crowds. But it's just, Melbourne have checked out, and as some of the snarky People on Twitter say it's like, well, it's snow season, like whatever.
Yeah. It's the stereotype that always flows up when Melbourne aren't involved in finals. And
Yeah.
I have heard a counter argument that a lot of Melbourne supporters are, in fact, MCC members, so they should really point the camera the other way for Melbourne games to show that there's actually a crowd there. But
Yeah.
it's all just
Although
fluff, really.
I think I saw a photo from someone who was in the MCC, one of the bars, and the bar was pretty much empty. I think they were one of the ones that said, like, yeah. So I think it was just one of those days.
17K.
It's pretty poor.
I mean, we've been there ourselves to a similar degree, but it was, we were pretty rock bottom on the ladder, to be fair. At a ground we hated as a club, as supporter base, and like you said, it is a bit jarring. It's
because I mean,
want to see an MCG with a few more people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a month or two ago when I was looking, we looked forward to these fixtures back when we did a review of the first half and kind of looked forward briefly. And, I looked at Melbourne. I was like, geez, that's going to be a blockbuster Saturday night game. It's going to be a nice, not that I'm expecting the MCG when you're playing Collingwood, but you're thinking maybe 40,000 at least. It was. Yeah. And the MCG having such a, obviously big capacity it makes it look quite weird on TV when it's such a low crowd. It does, we often get the shit for the tarp stuff and all that stuff from years ago. But we've seen examples of every team when they're just slightly down, just can have some shit crowds. And the Adelaide teams, and giving credit to Adelaide as well, like even though they're down, they're still getting pretty good crowds as well the whole way through the last 6 years. So, the Melbourne teams need to, some of their, Richmond going from their yellow and black horde over their dynasty and down to some pretty shit crowds at the moment too. So
unless
Dusty's playing his 300th. So
football fans by and large are fairly fickle.
It's an Australian sports thing too.
We live a good life in Australia. So if your football team's not doing too well, you can generally find something better to do. It's just us, rusted on supporters who, will, live and die by the sword, so to speak. We just run ourselves through the mud if our team's going that way. We can also say that we're when we're enjoying the successes or the good periods of time, then we fall back on the fact that there might have been 17K, but I was one of them. That's what I generally say.
Back to the game. I thought it was the first. Back to the start, because we've talked about our good starts a bit this year. Thought we started well, and we kicked the first 2 points. Asava, I think, put one out in the full or missed. I can't remember.
Kind of kicking across his body.
And we just didn't quite have that. There was a few snaps and shots like that just missed. Rioli missed one. The Rosie one that he ran into, I thought, geez, that's a fucking beautiful bit of play. Just slightly misses. I think it hits the post almost. I thought if we capitalised on that first 5-6 minutes with two goals won instead of 0 goals 2 and out in the full, whether it changes the game, I don't know, because Brisbane, where I got Brisbane from, Melbourne, maybe it's just something to do with bin, because if you say it in Australian phonetics, the bin of Brisbane and Melbourne is pretty much the same. But they brought the content. They were pretty high pressure and all that stuff. But I would have thought if we just had a bit more reward for our endeavour in those first few minutes, we might have maybe just not broken the game open, but might have just got that little break on it.
Rolling.
Yeah.
More fluently.
We say sliding doors a lot in this podcast, and I feel like that's just the thing now. And that was again, it's become a thing when I'm doing my notes during games. I like think of when I see a period of play and we don't capitalise, and then something, and then Melbourne went down and scored a couple of goals and ended up getting out to a 10, 11 point lead. It felt like a sliding doors moment in the fact that we hadn't taken that advantage, and then they got out to a 10, 11 point lead right up until 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. And that's what felt like that's when the game settled into what it was for the rest of the game, was because Melbourne, I had to think about that for a second there. I was like, save Melbourne.
You need a post-it note
Yeah.
now.
Um, That's such a weird brainworm to have got going there in the last 5 minutes. But yeah, Melbourne, like it just felt like a real sliding doors moment. I think that's where the game develops into what it was, because Melbourne got that kind of little bit of rush at halfway through that first quarter, when they kind of gotten a little bit of luck with us being a little bit profligate in front of goal, and then they got themselves ahead, and then they just
they're like, our plans are working now.
Yeah, and I think overall our game plan worked pretty well on the night, even though we didn't not we got held down by them a bit. Couldn't get our running game going, couldn't get the movement through the middle going too often. We had to look for our chances. We were actually fairly good at picking our moments, I think, at times. Like, they didn't come as often as they would. Obviously, Sydney was an aberration of a game, but looking back and watching the replay today, I was kind of I did watch a full replay of the game. And some people are like surprised when I say that, like, I watch it for whether it's a win or loss, I watch a full replay if I can. And I was really impressed with some of the moments where we did pick the kick out through the middle and get there. And that's often where we got some reward for goals, was some of those kicks through the middle that we found the target, and just got over their little like line of press just forward of centre there, and would be able to get some reward. But yeah, I felt the game. I felt the start was really, like, the first 5-6 minutes was pretty reasonable for an away game against, again, in a weird environment in the 17K crowd and all that stuff. I thought we started the game well. It's just we didn't capitalise, and it turned into a bit of, as I said at the start, a trench war again, which we've had a few of those this year.
Yeah. That, after watching the replay myself, the first half, that about sums up the first half. We just didn't capitalise on some of our passages of play, and it was just one of those games which we're prone to be fair. Hitting the post, missing shots on goal when we've got momentum, and keeping opposition in the game. And they had a pretty dour game plan, shutting off our corridor access and whatnot, and forced us to defend a lot because they were just taking their chances, and they didn't have much firepower, to be fair, and it probably helped us in the end. I've heard a lot of feedback to say that if JHF wasn't playing, that we probably lose, but also they had one guy that kicked 4 goals, who played a bit of an out-of-the-box game in regards to his season in Cozzy Pickett. So if they didn't have him, then they lose by more. So
Kane Corn's Twitter account got some action again.
I know. What a week to bring that up. Like, come on. Bring that up like tonight. Last night.
I did think, though, like, because some people were like in the midst of the game were saying, "Oh, Kane, he's gotten one going for us again." I was like, because he always seems to have a decent game against us, though, I think. So just my memory, which is very just, recency bias and stuff. But I just, when I was watching,
like they said in the telecast, he's got his personal best of 6 goals against us. I believe that was in Alice Springs, one of the NT grounds.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. But it's just one of those days where the game plan, the game plan kind of benefited him a little bit, because when they actually decided to surge forward, that's when he's in his prime. And like we mentioned before, probably a bit fortunate with a couple of the goals that he kicks. But if they didn't have him, they would have had no one to kick a score. It was just but putting it back on us, we didn't take our opportunities when we had the momentum, and it just compounded, and as a result, they're winning contested possession by a very high margin in the end. And we're just slightly off. It reminded me a lot of the Gold Coast game, obviously coming off the back of a St Kilda game, which was fairly dour in itself. And then we had that buoying win against the Bulldogs at home. And we thought we were a great chance to beat Gold Coast going over there and breaking their home record for this season. And they cut off our access to the corridor. They brought the contested game, and we just fell into it a little bit and turned it over a lot. Thankfully enough, in this game, those turnovers didn't occur like they did against Gold Coast. And maybe we learnt a couple of things from that game in regards to, if we're going to be cut off in the corridor, what can we do to try and combat that? And like you said, we still tried to bite off a lot of those kicks, and some of them came off to our benefit. But it's tough to say. I mentioned in the preview that playing at the MCG would be interesting because it kind of spreads you out a little bit, and you got to set your positioning a little bit differently. Your players have got to cover a little bit more ground, but I'm not sure if that really had a great impact. It did just seem to be Melbourne's pressure and ground ball game were keeping them there and thereabouts, and then kind of restricting us going forward a little bit on top of our own misdeeds in that regard.
Yeah, it was a game where any time the ball was in dispute or in around stoppage or just in dispute after a marking contest or whatever, when the ball came out, it always felt like they had one or two more around the ball than we did, which I found just one of those games. Again, you mentioned their pressure and whatnot. It felt it was one of those games where they were so on with what they wanted to do that there was maybe a bit of and again, last chance saloon kind of stuff with their season. And I assume that's kind of what they went into the game with, a little bit of that. Let's throw everything at this and see if we can, because again, this season's been so crazy. Like they probably thought, well, if we beat Port Adelaide and get a win and put ourselves in the conversation, who knows what can happen, because this season's been that crazy and there's a couple of teams that are falling out of the 8 that could keep falling with, you look at Carlton with their injury issues and whatnot. It's just like, those spots could come up for grabs. So like Hawthorn's taken that one. But we don't know what their mental preparation was for it. It seemed pretty good in the end. And they're set up around the ball and just really restricted there was just anytime every time we received a handball or a kick that was in play, or it was generally handball receives, a tackle was almost immediately on. And there was a couple of times we did that to ourselves. There was a few examples of, I think, trying to think, it was Zerk Thatcher had an interesting game, which, not to be down here, and we don't like to single out too many, but he did have one of his games where it's just like he made a few wrong decisions, but I don't think it was actually him.
I think they came more late in the game, to be fair. I thought him and Aaliyah had to do a lot of heavy lifting for the first half, first 3 quarters. And while Aaliyah kind of stayed on that level, I think Zerk Thatcher, probably a couple of those mistakes came a bit later.
It was the one that I'm thinking of.
Was running out.
Yeah, the one where he spoils, where Aaliyah's really going to just take one in the breadbasket, basically. And that one, I think, leads to Cozzy's goal where he gets through Butters. And then there was a few brain fades, like, actually, watching the Todd Marshall one, I think he was genuinely trying to put it through for a rush behind, but when you're that sideways of the point post, it's a tough one to try to execute, and you're setting yourself up a little bit for failure. So again, one of those games where the pressure was so on that we're just getting forced into some bad decisions at times. Jesus Christ, the one thing that I hate in games, and it's nothing to do with anything that's in control, but when you just feel like you're getting an overload of sudden injury worries. There was that period in the Todd, I think it was Todd went off.
It was
Logan,
concussion.
Which is sad for him and something to watch, I think. And Logan Evans is shown limping off. Zach Butters looks like he hyperextends his knee at one point. And then obviously later in the game, Bergman went down the race for a moment. And after, by the way, the injury thing you can talk about that in a moment as well. But I found, I don't know how you police this as far as, because I already think the tribunals and match review officers have just a shit job, and it's just like it's just with the AFL's tied itself so up in knots about how they're dealing with head injuries and whatnot. But I find the late check on a clear marking attempt like Bergman's that ended up with him getting that, whatever, that corked hip or whatever it was that he ended up with, that he battled through for the rest of the game. Pickett, that's a dirty move, and it's, Pickett's got a little bit of history with that kind of stuff now, late checking and stuff, and he had a bit of that in the game. But that coming through and hooking the arm,
thinly veiled,
Bergman's clearly taken the
spoil.
Yeah, and it wasn't because you can see watching the slow mo. It's like he knows, and Bergman goes down in a heap, and obviously, yeah, if he'd just been allowed to take that mark legally and without any dirty intervention from Pickett, then that's a mark that doesn't end up in an injury worry. But as it turns out, Bergman had to battle through the rest of the game with what looked like a bit of a corked hip, and he was in a fair, like, Bergman's pretty tough. Like, he takes a lot of hits down there in his contested marking or whatever, and rarely have I seen him in pain just from a contact injury. Like, that wasn't an injury to we're not talking ACLs or knees or shoulder or AC joint. He just, that was a contact injury, and he was in pain because, when you get forced to fall weirdly with a little bit of dirty checking on the marking attempt, I found that. I was just like, I don't think, like, I'm not calling for a suspension. I was just like looking at the stuff. I'm like, going forward, if we keep going down the road of every time someone gets a little head knock, that we're knocking people out for 3 games. But then what if Bergman ended up out for a few games because of that one? It's just like, it's a weird adjudication we're doing in the AFL. And we're not kind of allowing for that. There's a lot of other dirty stuff that happens that actually stuff that is legitimately dirty that doesn't get flagged when sometimes innocuous head knocks are getting flagged now because they're so worried about that. That's a random tangent that I went down on the night within myself, and I had to bring up to you just as a form of therapy for myself. But
it's an interesting point you made.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't have any answers for it, but I find it
because it was on the fringes of being a late hit and 50 meters because he marked it, but the umpire just called like high contact. Oh, he might have even just called the mark.
I think he just called the mark because it was. I think he.
Yeah, it's like, well, a bit more to it than that, but yeah. Look, we can sit here and hope that the AFL and the review bodies kind of get on an even keel and adjudicate some of these things properly, and also the umpires on the ground, like, because he had a lot of rope up until that point, so why not just keep going a little bit? The umpires just need to show a bit more authority, like, to for those who are Patreon members, thank you for one, but you'll hear the qualifying final wrap up that we recorded on Friday, and there's a bit of a moment where we were talking about the umpires just showing a bit more authority on the game and having a bit of verbal back and forth with the players, but in an authoritative manner. And it seems to have eluded umpires these days, and sometimes they can let players get away from them when they just need to show a bit more authority to wear out that word a bit earlier in the game and maybe keep some people in check. No,
absolutely. And I found it was there was a little bit of niggle throughout the game. I really loved when Butters, after he gets that running goal, just
bit of chirp.
Just when you watch the celebration in slow motion, he's high-fiving a couple of guys, but his eyes are darting, and he almost looks like he's looking for Clarry. And I thought about you, actually, because I know there was I think it was during the Bulldogs game, you said you were so close to the lid lifting off your house when HORNE-FRANCIS almost burnt Bontempelli but got caught holding the ball. And then when I saw Butters just streaking away from Clarry and kicking that goal, I thought that one's going to have Jamie up and about. And
it was a rare highlight for the game overall.
It was.
But loved the little, and he was kind of very cheeky afterwards, and Clayton Oliver did not look happy.
Didn't look happy much in this game.
When Zach Butters is going to, Butters is almost just like, he just thought it was funny. Yeah, maybe even just commenting on the fact, like, why are you even out here? Like, you can't run. How about that goal? And Clarry's probably going, I haven't done a fucking preseason, but well.
Yeah, well, it's different when you haven't done a preseason through, mental health issues are just as important, but he's still, it was interesting. Side note, I can't remember if it was on the couch or one of the shows last night, mentioned that I think Gary Lyon was actually, because there was a few things brought up to him, being that he's a Melbourne man, and he kind of alluded to the fact that they're still just playing Oliver because it's better. It keeps him focused. Like they should probably not be playing him, but because he can turn up on the day and still play, I guess. And because otherwise they're thinking if they put him on ice, he's going to become unfocused and become a problem again, which is a concern in of itself. That you can't just sit your star player down like Clayton Oliver, the contract is on, and just say, look, we need you to rest and not do anything stupid in the meantime. But they're like, well, we need to keep him focused on footy, so I guess we're going to keep playing him. I'm like, God, it's a weird situation, but that's for them to worry about. But that does show some, like, because it was a weird Clayton Oliver game. He played off halfback a bit and got burnt a fair bit of that time. Like often, a lot of our thoroughfares through to goal.
Yeah,
we're finding
and the commentary team. Yeah,
finding the matchup on Oliver.
Him.
Yeah,
yeah. Whoever he was matching up on. Yeah, we just like, oh well, target them for this period of time. It was just really odd, and yeah, like just keeping him playing at AFL level to keep him out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird position for Melbourne to be in. A bit, of their own problem, a bit of their own doing as well. You know, they're stuck with him, so to speak, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We'll never really know. Same can be said for our own club, to be fair. We mentioned way back in the preview shows that we had question marks on Melbourne, and their season has kind of unfolded ultimately where we probably thought it was going to, just based on everything that's going on off the field for them and centered around him. Yeah, but when a player is that much of a liability, like you just talk about standards and like Max Gawn wanting to play out the season well, surely you can't keep a guy in that can't even run a whole game out. Just so that he's doesn't have idle hands and left to his own devices. That's I don't know.
Yeah, because I think Lions
club to worry about.
Lion said that his hand's still just completely fucked. Like he was just like, and it's just like
that was on the couch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's such a I'm fascinated by it. That's again for another podcast, but it was a really interesting side note. But again, it is a feature of what we're talking about in reviewing the game. Is like we were able to target. It's funny being able to target the Clayton Oliver matchup of all matches, because you're thinking that's the matchup that you're going to have to worry about in the middle, but he wasn't a factor in there. And I was more worried about when Cozzy Pickett went into the middle, to be honest, at times when his burst and things of that nature. It's just, it was a weird game that way. I wanted to ask you, and I guess it's a good time to bring it up, and it's slightly club news, but related to the game as well. Obviously, the Dan Houston rumblings have continued, and I thought that was an interesting side note going into the game. I've had
that note in my notes app for several weeks since it broke, but the last couple of shows have been quite lengthy and quite positive in other ways. It was a bit hard to shoehorn that conversation in, but it was an interesting point in time.
There was a news, I think,
played Melbourne.
Yeah, and then there was a report from, I think, was it Kane Corns at some point last week, put out there that and it's kind of like, regardless of what you think about Kane Corns and news breaking and whatever that he does have a connection to the club. So whatever his news out of the club, maybe, but he kind of seemed to say this is on, and most suggestions are that it's just like it's all amicable, but going into playing the club that he's being rumoured against, and I couldn't watch the game without it being in mind. So, and he started the game a little bit quietly and a couple of weird kicks.
There was even a few odd possessions that were,
Did you note him holding?
And we're obviously looking too far, probably looking way too far into it. But there's a few turnovers or like some fumbles of the ball, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
There was a moment when he shepherded on the half-back line and he ends up holding hands with the Melbourne. I can't remember who the Melbourne player was for a second, but he shepherds and holds him out and his hand just clutches onto his hand for a second. And
I remember that it was Neil Bullen actually marked the ball inside 50.
That's not the one
I remember. Dan
anyway.
just trying to stop him from getting the ball, and then he ends up hold his hand in defeat almost. But like you just mentioned, kind of some fairly reputable people are talking about this in actual fact, and that makes it a bit hard to ignore. I don't know what I make of it. A bit similar to, I mean, yeah, you talk about Gary Lyon, and his comments in regards to Petrarca believing it when they hear it from the horse's mouth. Like, it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
But with the point that I made just before that, in regards to who's speaking about it, makes it more believable and very similar to the Carl Amon situation. And as amicable as it can be, like, I still don't fucking like it. Like, you know, you put a lot of work into people, and then ultimately, they leave when, you know, he's already got an All-Australian jacket, could arguably get another one this year.
A lot of the mock teams have him up there in the back lines.
Yeah, depending on who you look at, definitely be in the 40. But yeah, and then for some other team to reap the benefits of a true A grader in their prime. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really does. And yeah, you know, full credit to adults acting like adults and, you know, accepting one thing. And this is assuming that it does actually come to fruition. But yeah, I'll be disappointed. It's rare that a rookie who does break through for a side to then play good football then leaves. Generally, they tend to just repay the favor and stick around because of their journey and whatnot. So if it is true, I'd be really interested to know what the factors are and how serious they are, because obviously the people that we have rarely lost have gone to Victoria for personal reasons, like Amon and Jarman Impey are two that pop out. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. You've had some family reasons where you've gone back. Jarman Impey had to look after, I think it was his brother and his sister in the end. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what the reasons would be if Dan is going to leave, which, look, at this point in time, it looks likely. But I still don't. I don't fucking like it. You know, we have a litany of halfbackers and whatnot, but he's the number one kick in the AFL, and he's a pretty important cog and a great person and a great representative of our club from his time being here. It just, yeah, if it does come to fruition, yeah, I won't like it. I won't like it. It's selfish, but I don't really care. You know, congratulating someone because they leave in an amicable fashion. I've seen a lot of people, you know, already doing that and doing that in regards to Carl Amon. But yeah, the selfish part of me always takes over in these situations. And yeah, well, stick around. Stick around.
He's clearly got, like, he's one of the first names on the team sheet kind of status at the club and will for and has a role. It's like, you know, we've seen players that leave sometimes don't find it as easy to define a role. I mean, you know, the likes of Impey.
And just freshly being put into the leadership group as well as
that is an interesting
for me. Yeah. Just makes it even more intriguing as to what this scenario
Yeah, because what happened between the discussions to go into the leadership group in the last 6 months? It's like, yeah, again, we don't know what's going on personal life wise, but it is very intriguing in that sense, especially the fact he's got 3 years on his contract after this year, so he only signed that 5-year deal a couple of years. So it's not like players that have a long-term look towards going home don't sign those kind of deals. So it's clearly something's changed, and I assume everything at the club is fine because he's playing good footy and the club seems in a good place as far as
club's in a good spot. Yeah.
You know, happiness and synergy between teammates and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you have to assume it's if it does. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I trust the list management team to find the right deal and certainly on that front, the negotiating, I think that's what I said on Twitter when I finally put something out about it. I'm not going to feed into too much of the more of the the discussions, because a lot of that stuff just is circle jerking. There's not much to it apart from people just complaining and trying to talk through, and therapy on Twitter, so to speak. But
yeah, well, and we've got a season alive.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
We can
like it's
go on and win a premiership this year.
It's a bridge to cross another time for me.
Yeah.
And just thinking about it makes me sad. I don't think any supporter of their football club likes to lose good people. And by and large, we have a lot of good people at the club, obviously in our biased opinions. And yeah, there's obviously been those discussions about how it could benefit us because of, his value as a player, his contract, but yeah, I don't care. And from what I understand, if we're wanting to go down that avenue, like if we're looking at it like a draft perspective, like apparently we have our eyes set on a lot of father sons and academy stuff over the next couple of years anyway. So a high draft pick, it's always valuable, obviously, but yeah, I'd prefer to just keep him.
yeah. That's the thing. Is like a draft pick is still an unknown. Like, particularly, I mean, we'll get to showdown preview in a little while, but Crows are a team famously at the moment that have burnt a few of their high picks. So we've done well with a few of them over the last few years. But you can have a high pick completely go to bust as well. So a player that is a top level and all Australian level player is always going to be more valuable than the fantasy of a draft pick, because as soon until that draft pick hits and becomes has a 50 game resume of good footy, then you just don't know. And that's so yeah, I do want to keep him, but yeah, I thought it was an interesting storyline being that we played Melbourne this week, and I couldn't separate it from my mind for a while. Once the game got into it, and in the second half, he did play some pretty good footy, and had some crucial moments and helped us win the game. It went away, but yeah, at the start of the game when that anxiety was a little bit, and I was thinking about it, and then a few little things, a few little un-Dan Houston things happened early on. I could not separate it in my mind.
I do think it was great form by the social media team to put him and Miles Bergman in the prison bars for this week.
I thought that was good too. Yeah,
we'll get to the showdown obviously and the prison bars at large a bit later, but yeah, I thought that was great. The two people obviously with the most chat about their movements over the next 1 or 2 years. Yeah, I thought it was great form.
Yeah, very, very good from the team, and they looked good in them. And yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to the preview. But yeah, very good stuff from them. I just wanted to look at a few of the stats that because you mentioned the contested possessions before, which, as you mentioned, has some free kick to it. But I thought we've been one of the better contested teams over the last 5-6 weeks. It's been mentioned in a lot of the shows, and I just before I talk about our numbers from this game, basically the last 5 weeks we're averaging 136 contested possessions, which is top 6 in the league, which compared to our overall season average, which is 128, which is bottom 5 in the league. So that's our season average, but the last 6 weeks are actually we're top 8 and top 6 in the league for contested possession. So we have turned around some of that stuff that you and I have talked about a lot over the year, and a lot of people have talked about this year and the last few years about a contested ball. We have been better, ground ball gets and all that stuff. We've just been better all around as a contested team, which is good. It shows that we can do it. This game, obviously, the big stat that a lot of people put up is that we were minus 30 in the contested ball numbers, but we actually we hit slightly above our season average of 128, but still below the last few weeks. But in there, we had 130. It's the fact that Melbourne got 160, again, aided by some of the free kicks. Their average is 132. I just think it shows that we hit pretty much in our margin, even if slightly below the last few weeks. They were just way above themselves, and yet we still found a way to win. We need to match those numbers a little bit better, because better opposition will burn us for that. And I think even this week's upcoming opposition has some interesting numbers with that, which we'll talk to about when we get to the showdown preview. But there is some still concern in that, but the fact that we still won the game. But yeah, Melbourne's numbers were just so far out of this world that I think it is obviously something to bring up because it shows the kind of pressure they came to with the contest, and they really played well. Yeah,
they definitely had a solid game plan, and by and large, they executed what they wanted to do, and a lot of that was built off pressure and contest.
Yeah,
scoring side of things left a little bit to be desired, but yeah, that's an interesting comparison that you just bring up, and it showed that they were just putting everything out on the park, like everything was on the line, so they put it all out there to see what they could return.
Yeah, it was particularly when they got inside 50, like their tackles inside 50 were 18 to 6 for the game. And I think towards the end of the first half, they actually brought up that I think they'd had 11 or 12 of those in the first half, so it was really that first half as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So they really were trying to put the pressure on when they had the ball down their forward 50 to try to hold it there and get a scoring opportunity, because they knew that was their, they're not finding avenues to goal very easily. So at least holding the ball inside 50, they can try to find another chance. Or and again, we obviously even that up in the second half because 2/3 of their tackles inside 50 were in that first half, and overall,
I thought that was an indicator also of how deep both teams were getting the ball in their forward line. I thought, again, for us, one indicator of a poor game is our dump kicking shallow inside 50. And it just seemed to be a lot of that. So it's hard to tackle inside 50 in our regard when it's not deep inside 50. And
it's barely getting in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought they were getting a lot better looks. And that, goes along with that stat that when you're getting it deep and you're actually able to put on a tackle inside 50. I thought our defense was really working overtime in that first half, and they were really, I thought they were holding up quite well, to be fair, because they had to absorb a lot of pressure. And again, another difference between this and the Gold Coast game, which I drew a comparison to earlier, was that I thought that while certain parts of the game were getting away from us to an extent, and they were surging it forward at times, our defense was holding up 1-on-1, but they were also supporting each other quite well, and that actually allowed us to repel those advances by Melbourne and keep their score down. So a lot of credit, again, particularly in that first half, to the defensive unit as a whole. I think I put out a tweet on the night that they really earned their salary in that first half, and maybe the midfield needed to lift a little bit to assist them. And again, like you said, maybe Melbourne's pressure and contest and their effort overall was just out of the ordinary and much more than what we expected going into the game. But you have to react to it. And thankfully, our defense as a whole did in those early stages of the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was just to speak on your the defensive effort, like they only took 7 marks inside 50, despite all those inside. They're up. I think they're up to 17-10 on inside 50s towards the end of the first quarter. They were getting the ball in there a fair bit. We ended up winning the inside 50 count. Just scrolling up my notes here, 56-48, which is actually, we were right on our average and they were right on theirs. So for that, but yeah, despite all the inside 50 pressure they were putting on with tackling and stuff, they just couldn't. They didn't take as many marks inside 50, which is a testament to, again, the defensive effort and then the backup for everyone as well. Considering their pressure, we kind of matched it, even if it doesn't show in the numbers. Although it'd be interesting to see defensive tackles inside 50 as a stat, and I need to find that sometime too, maybe, to kind of balance that out. Overall, we actually won the tackle count in the night slightly, 62-60. Yes. So it's just the inside 50 stuff that was there. But yeah, it's overall, a lot of the numbers are okay for us. It's just obviously the contested number, again, like I said, it's stark, but I think it kind of doesn't tell the full story. It's just so far out of, because the AFL average is 131. That's what it is for the year. So they beat the AFL average by 29. So it's not just us. It's just some teams are going to, and the best team over the last 5-6 weeks is the Western Bulldogs with 146 contested possessions, and that's just the Western Bulldogs have been one of the better teams in the competition over the last 5 weeks, apart from last weekend. So, so they beat the best team in the competition over the last 5 weeks with their numbers. So that's just sometimes going to happen, and the fact that you can still get away with the win is very important. Did you have anything else to touch on before? You mentioned the midfield, and they did get better in the second half. I feel like some of that chat's going to come in the stats, in the segments, though. So I might leave some of mine, at least for that. But if you've got anything else you want to add before we get to the segments.
Look, not really. It's not not the greatest game to
Yes.
die. I even forgot the word that I was going to say.
Dissect, I assume.
Dissect.
Yeah.
But look, I think any good football team has these matches. No football club has the perfect season where everything just goes to plan. And again, we've had a great last 6 weeks, which has been well noted. So yeah, we're being hunted again, and Melbourne had a game plan that they came with. Look, what does it mean for the next couple of weeks and then finals? I guess we're left to find out maybe this week, but the last couple of times we've had these kind of games, we've rebounded fairly well. So away from home against a team playing for their season, it's not pretty, but you just got to do it however you can sometimes. And playing on the MCG this close to finals is a benefit. What it may show is that if the finals shape up how they go, it may, with a lot of non-Victorian sides playing, is that the next time we play on the MCG, it might be against another non-Victorian team. And yeah, those kind of nuances that you have to battle aren't as prevalent. So yeah, it's just an interesting one to put in the back pocket and kind of forget about, really. But glad that we actually had the mettle to deal with it, deal with what was coming our way, and get over the line in the end. And AFLX score had us about 14 points, the expected margin, and that's, again, like we were talking about earlier, had we taken some of those chances early, perhaps, or had we taken some of those chances when we had momentum, some of those almost moments that I mentioned earlier went our way, that's probably appropriate. It would still suggest a fairly, dogged game, but I think that's appropriate. I think we were the better side. They brought better pressure and contest, but I think we still had better skills, and we had better passages of play overall. And bank the 4 points and move on.
Yeah. As I said at the start in my intro, comparing contrast to last week's game against Sydney, is a big gap in performance and watchability. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happened in both of those games. If you're on the right side of the ledger, it's 4 points either way. You don't get 12 points for beating Sydney by 112 points. It's still just 4 points. No. So sometimes,
that's exactly right.
There's teams, you look at Premier League title winning seasons, some teams have gone through seasons by winning 1-0, 2-1 most of the weeks. And then the team that, has half of their wins by 5-0 loses, 6-7 of the others and don't win the title. Sometimes you just got to win them doggedly at times and take the wins however you can get them. That's the sign. I guess
the round as a whole kind of suggested that, is that while all the other favourites predominantly dropped their fixtures against whoever they were coming up against, we actually did the job. So again, it's just a reflection of the season as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a large portion of Port Adelaide fans who are probably looking right into it on the negative side of things. And again, the next 2 to 6 weeks will show us kind of where this game sits in context. So I guess we'll see.
Rest of the story is yet to be written. Alrighty, segments. As always, I often say it's going to be an interesting one, but I think a few of the Spotlight is interesting this week and watch this. But I get to go first in Spotlight, which I had to take one that I've mentioned a couple of times, and I put a tweet out for it on the night, which kind of probably betrayed where I was going on it. But I have to go Quinton Narkle for my Spotlight. We've talked about
Yeah,
him a
right.
lot over the last few weeks. I think you actually noted him as your spotlight a few weeks back as well. But I think he was really clutch in this last quarter. He makes himself known to the game whenever he comes on as a sub, whether it be he had to come on at halftime this time around because of Todd's injury, but in that last quarter he stepped up, took marks, took a few good marks, even tried to, obviously we talked about the almost keeping the ball in and then having the wherewithal to centre it for, I think, Rosie, who took the mark that ended up obviously being called back for the score review. But yeah, he kicked the goal, a really clutch shot when we were a goal down, and tied the scores up for us to eventually edge ahead with those points we talked about earlier. But yeah, I just like what he's doing as a bit of a super sub role, which is, an interesting role in the AFL at the moment now. A lot of us talk about how it would just be easy to go to 5 on the bench instead. But as it is what it is at the moment, yeah, you'd love to have Knuckle just available on the bench to come on whenever you need, whether he'd be one of those ones that spends a bit more time on the bench than not. But he's certainly, when he comes into the game, he makes his presence known and has, we talked about it. It's funny looking back to a few weeks ago when he could have had 4 goals in the last quarter and kicked
Last
zero
quarter
goals.
alone, yeah.
Yeah, 0 goes 4, but he had his one real shot this time around and sunk it in a really, really clutch position with 6 minutes to go and we were a goal down and finding it really hard to get quality shots on goal. So he to step up in that moment, I think gives you massive plus points. And yeah, to have a sub doing what he's doing and really coming on every week and playing just well and making himself known, I think is really important. So I had to shout him out and give him some plaudits because it took him a while to get his chance this year. So he's showing that he's got something to give if needed.
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy with your spotlight there. The point you made about making yourself known is quite apt, and it's definitely mirrors my thoughts in regards to him. How often you can be the sub would be my question. What's that, 3 weeks in a row now for him?
Yeah, at least it feels
Maybe,
like,
or
yeah.
3 out of the last 4.
Mhm.
But yeah, he whether it's gut running defensively, and then opening up pockets of space for other people, or just getting involved in passages of play, having looks at goal, is important. And on a night where our smaller forwards probably didn't have a great one, in Rioli, Evans, and the like, HORNE-FRANCIS kicked his 2 goals, but he's a resting midfielder. So and then for Knuckle to come on, it was a contested mark as well that led to that goal opportunity. So I agree. Like,
he made the space his own with that mark, which is really, like, he just really jumped in there and was just like, this is my spot, which is a good quality to have because some players can be a little bit timid in that sense too. So
yeah, and I mean, I think he's around 23, 24 years old, so you would expect him to be fairly comfortable within a game of football. Being comfortable within the club is another thing, being a mid-season recruit from last year.
It's good that he has that relationship with Pal Pepper. Were they cousins or something like that?
And then with Francis Evans and Radigalia, funnily enough, from his days all their days at Geelong. So
he's 26 years old, by the way. I was just doing a Google while you were,
Yeah, wow, yeah. So like I said, you'd want to be fairly comfortable with your own game, but then how it fits within it fits in a new environment is another thing. And I think, this year in particular, having done a pre-season with us, while his opportunities have been somewhat limited, when he does come on, he does look a bit more comfortable in relation to how we want to play. And love that. Love that from you. So moving on to mine, I've selected Logan Evans because someone's fucking got to in the AFL industry. They're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for other people to get Rising Star nominations, but this guy just keeps on keeping on with his role. Like, he doesn't put a foot wrong. He's even selling candy, absorbing pressure. There was a moment late, I can't remember if it's the 3rd or 4th quarter, he was rebounding out of the defensive 50 or on the defensive flank, and it looked like he was gone for all money from a couple of tackles, but he just burst away. He positioned his body well to shake a tackle and surge the ball forward. Just the confidence that he seems to be playing with, and we've brought it up a few times now. It is quite surprising for an 18-year-old, and it's easy to forget with how he's playing that he is only 18. But just some quick stats: 16 disposals, 5 of which were contested. He even had 2 center clearances, which is funny because it was obviously a stoppage after the center bounce, and 5 inside 50. So yeah, again, he's a role player. That's fine. I made that point, I think it was last week, in regards to Francis Evans. You need these guys to make up a good squad, and he's playing above his years. So probably no surprises to anyone that he's in the spotlight vicinity. But yeah, just wanted to bring him up again because you could forgive someone of that age having a fairly down game or even finding their way out of the side, but to come in and just hold it and hold up a spot and keep other players out by just purely playing your role, playing with confidence and disposing of the ball fairly efficiently overall. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and we've now seen, it's an eight week spread of games, and multiple different games we've seen in that time, whether it be, obviously he started off in that loss against Brisbane, but then since then it's been 6 of 8 and different games, some close ones, some big wins against Sydney and Dogs, but some real close ones that he's had to be involved in and be clean with his possession. And he's never been he's been a net positive in all of those games. So yeah, we've now seen a different spread of, we've got good data on him now, and you got to say it's all trending upwards. And yeah, when you think about, like you said, he's 18 years old, mid-season draft pick, you just got to wonder what he can become already. Not wanting to put any overt pressure on him, but just actually the confidence I think he has within himself. He's going to be thinking, I can fucking go on and become a pretty damn good AFL player and have a good career in this league now, because he's showing that he's got the skill and the temperament for it as well, which is really important too, which I think speaks to you. What you was, that little dummy candy breaking ankles thing he did to that was in the middle, which was, I think, probably one of his center clearances, because that comes out and he's kind of running off the back of the square and does a little 1-2 with Ollie Wines, and then sidesteps and puts the ball inside 50. That's 18-year-olds don't do that unless they have a good understanding and temperament towards the game, because he does it very nonchalantly, but very deliberately as well, which is really just good stuff. The intent, you can't teach that stuff. That's stuff that comes from having the skills and then the understanding of the game to kind of wrap it all up in one.
And obviously the trust between himself and the coaches to just play his game and play with confidence. So, yeah.
No, I love him. He's been a real pleasant surprise, and I've got to say, it can't be any secret that our best footy has come when he's gone into that back line. Bergman's roles change. Just like the back line structure ever since they changed a couple of those things, including him coming in, has been the best, what we've kind of wanted all year. So yeah, he's a part of that. My watch for this week, and it's a little bit of, I've done these left field ones where it's not so much based on the game, or it's, I think there was one week I did the midfield group at one point. This week, it's unfortunate because it's a little bit of a concerning one, but it's Todd Marshall, and I actually think he was having an okay game for a bit. Like, he came upfield. I was okay with him. Obviously the deliberate out of bounds was a little bit of a, it's not quite a brain fake, because you actually know what he was trying to do. It's just like he didn't execute. So it's just maybe you need to be just better situationally and think, if I'm this much angled to goal, I just need to punch it the other way and make it look like I'm going, punch it down the line towards the 50 yard.
Or just take the tackle and trust your midfielders,
take possession and take
stoppage.
Because if you take possession, you're going to just get tackled over the line. And but my watch is on. And 3 concussions in 2 years now. It's a concern on what his future is. And for this year, I genuinely don't know if he's taken this kind of, he's been out of the side for a few weeks, gets back in due to some, it's not luck, but it's for him getting a chance again. It's due to obviously Georgiades injury. and then he can't get through a half of football with what is it was a contest, but it wasn't like it wasn't a head hitting the ground or anything. It was like fairly innocuous contact, I would think, for what resulted in a concussion. And that's concern to me now that he's a few concussions into his career. These things kind of compound a little bit. By my understanding, I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but I've done some concussion reading over the years, and just particularly with, like, I remember in the hockey league, like Sidney Crosby had a few years out and he came back, but he had a few years out because of compounding concussions and because of the head just deals with the second and third ones worse than they do with the original ones.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, and particularly in this game. And for this year, it's a watch on what we're doing, because now, with Georgiades possibly out for another week or two, Todd now unavailable this week for sure, and you just can't. Can you trust him to come in and be able to get through a game at any point for the rest of this year? I don't think the coaches can really sit there now and say, even if you've cleared protocols, blah, 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 can you come in and get through a game? Because if you're still susceptible to that kind of contact causing a concussion when we go into finals, I just don't think his name can be on the high up on the selection sheet anymore, unless we're absolutely, bereft with injuries. I think there's other magnets you have to start swinging at this point. And that's disappointing. We've said before, I think Todd at his best is great. And I think I was impressed with a couple of little things he did in this game. He wasn't getting, obviously, goal scoring opportunities, but I'm just a little bit concerned about where his immediate future for this year. I genuinely don't know where it is now. And then going forward, there's a little bit of concern too.
Yeah. I mean, prior to Georgiades' injury coming up, my opinion was to put him on ice, so to speak, for the rest of the year anyway.
Yeah.
And just either rest or just play it out in the Magpies, because some other players who at other points in even this year or previous years have been classed as a best 22 player. And, the coaches were going on about how he's a best 22 player. But I agree. I just think it's fraught with danger. For someone who's battled so much injury and form in one season. Yeah. And the fact that he's obviously one of those guys who's susceptible to a concussion, which, is a big downfall if it continues. Yeah, it is. It's just disappointing, because he was starting the game fairly well, but yeah, we've got a premiership to chase all of a sudden. And he'll sit out as he is required to do, but it's not leaving much time. And I just don't know how you can pick someone for such important games that we have coming up, with that many question marks in regards to his health and this season as a whole. Disappointing. Battling for a watch, I'll admit, because while, it was a average game overall. Some people had some down games, but it's off the back of some pretty great form for everyone, really. I mean, we both did 2 spotlights last week each, so that kind of just says it all. So anything's a bit harsh. I guess one that I would go with, and it's not, it is probably harsh, is Jordan Sweet. He had a down game, and then he's coming up against another kind of clunky, big ruckman who, if anything, wins that particular contest this week. He definitely lowered his colours. I did think he rebounded quite well in the last quarter, I will add. I thought he evened the contest much better. And, just quickly looking at his hit-outs to advantage, he had 27 hit-outs overall and 8 to advantage. just thing was, he was coming up against a Max Gawn who had 30 hitouts overall with 15 to advantage. So, you know, in other games, yeah, he's getting the better of his opposition, and it didn't happen this time. I guess the watch is that just knowing the coaches and if you're dropping off like now, I hope that he doesn't lose his spot. Because I know the match committee probably can pull that lever.
It's the ruck. The ruck is the one position we seem to have done that over the last few years, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Well, and I mean, like even this season,
through necessity at times,
he was filling in, and then unfortunately got sick, and then he found his way out of the side, and there was the first game against Carlton where Soldo got rushed back in, and thought Sweet was a bit unlucky then. I just hope that they don't overreact to one or two maybe bad games, and I'm forecasting already. He's had a great, what is it, 6 to 8 weeks. When we've mentioned several times, he's done it against some fairly formidable opposition. And just looking at the SANFL game, it was actually Visentini who, I didn't watch the game, I would say, but just judging by the stats, Visentini was obviously given first ruck, funnily enough, because he had the 29 hitouts, and Soldo had 17. So, I would imagine if they go, Sweet's dropped off and we need to, what's our best side for finals? I would still imagine they'd probably go with Soldo over Visentini, but I think maybe the fact that Soldo played second fiddle maybe helps Sweet, because I don't know if they would pick Visentini to take over. So the watch is on Sweet and how he bounces back this week, which I expect him to do quite well, and we'll probably get into kind of X's and O's a little bit in that regard with our preview. It's just more so knowing that in such a particular specialist position, you can't have too many down games before match committee kicks you out when we've got a glut of people to replace you with, which would be really unfortunate. Keen to see how he bounces back.
No, absolutely. And like you said, he still did pop up in the last quarter. And again, I liked him flying the flag a little bit. Like I said, that fine that he copped for the Clayton Oliver thing, I think he was flying the flag a little bit for some of the stuff he was seeing off the ball in the minute previous. So it's come up before this year, but he's a Port Adelaide boy. And give
me players who give a fuck. I've said that before a couple of times as well. So I love that.
I'm going to fucking put that on a t-shirt and give me players that give a fuck. That's good. That is very good. All right. We'll get to the awards now and the goal of the weeks and all that stuff. But first, last week's winners, very, very tight votes. I don't know if you kept an eye on it, but particularly with our Sweeney last week, which was obviously the Air Sava mark that he took and then followed up with his one goal for last week versus Jordan Sweet's very, very nice sweet kick inside 50. It ended up tied, but I have refrained since the first couple of weeks of the season because we both put our own votes in, but I've decided I refrain unless a tiebreak is needed, and then I'll put my vote in. So of course I nominated Air Sava, so Air Sava wins. But
of course.
That's basically my way of. I've decided that's my way of tie breaking. So. But it was, tied. I couldn't split it, so I was just like, well, I've got to go with. I
love that. We did say that it was going to be an interesting week and how the votes panned out because of who was nominated, how, and what they were nominated for. So, it's quite fitting that it ended up in a tie, I reckon.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that, and two very different Sweeneys, but both took a fair bit of appreciation on both sides from the Creed fam out there. So thank you as always for voting, guys. And the goal of the week, Boak won fairly handily with 67% of the vote. So fairly comfortable. But Dixon still got his votes in there as well. But Boak, obviously the vibes of that one, party time at the end there, and both were snapped. So I think it was, whether there's I mean, Dixon's fairly loved, but I think Boak is, it's no surprise he's one of the most beloved figures in Port Adelaide history. So, but yeah, no, that was a really nice goal from him as well, and kind of summed up the party time atmosphere of last week. Anyway, this week, goal of the week, and Jamie, you get to go first. You've got seven to pick. You've got 7 to pick from.
7, and yeah, look, some of those were fairly straight up and down. So, I'm going to go with DBJ's dribbler from the pocket in the first quarter.
Penetrating kick. Radigalea tries to get over the back. He does. Gets through his fingertips. Gives it off. Burne-Jones bounces it through for a goal.
And this is the subtleties from a defensive point of view. Radigalea gets in behind Tomlinson there, uses his body terrifically. Just the penetration from Farrell off half back to get that ball in behind to give them the opportunity, and then the work rate from Radigalea and Burne-Jones to get in behind the Melbourne defence.
Yeah, it's one that sets itself apart from most of the other goals on the night, and particularly for the guy doing it, who, look, apparently loves, kick along the ground. He's lauded his own striker proficiencies. So yeah, I guess he just keeps on displaying that old DBJ, and contributing as a small forward. So that's my goal of the week nomination.
Yeah, that was top of my list as well, and I like that. I've got DBJ in the first, nice dribbler. So I like that you use the same descriptive word for it. I was like, even when I was typing, I was like, is dribbler the right word? But you used it as well, so that's good. And a great Asava assist. Like Asava created the contest and brought the ball to ground, and then got the ball out to DBJ as well. And and then the finish from DBJ was from a fair bit of distance. So to have the angle and dribble on that is
absolutely.
Yeah, a really good pick. Mine, probably fairly obvious because now I've only got 6 to pick from, and not too many others. Like there were some good goals, but I think the Butters
set shot goals.
Yeah,
made up most of our goals.
Yeah,
so,
but I had to, obviously for the second one, I have to go with the Butters on the run.
But he also knows how dangerous this type of play can be for Port.
This is them at their explosive best. Butters took a couple of bounces in a matter of 3 or 4 steps, and there's some individual brilliance from Zach Butters.
Just the turn of speed, Days. See Clayton having to chase there, but he just ran away from him, just turned the jets on and geared up. But then his ability to just settle, take a couple of steps, doesn't overkick the footy.
The footage of him burning one of the best midfielders in the competition at his best. Obviously, we've already touched on the reasons he's not.
Yeah.
But in video, you don't hear all of that context. You just see Butters streaking away from Clayton Oliver looking incredibly frustrated. So, yeah, and then it's just a typical wonderful Butters goal. He takes 2 bounces. I think the commentator said that he took 2 bounces in like 6 steps. And we've talked about it before. He takes strategic bounces. Like you can tell he takes a bounce thinking like, yes, I've got time to take a bounce. I'll take it here rather than waiting until I get, run too far.
It's just like a tick that some footballers have. They're like, as long as if I'm running with the ball, I've got to bounce it. It's just
and maybe he keeps an eye on that. That is it Cinch footy or whatever it is?
Cumulative total.
Well, he's got it. It's called the bounce low. He's like counting counting the players that take.
I haven't seen that.
And I'll send it to you afterwards. I think it's Cinch footy. And I think Butters is second to someone else. I can't think of the guy's name. I feel like he's from GWS or Sydney off the top of my head, but it could be someone completely different. But yeah, Butters is like 3 or 4. So they've been counting the bounces.
I think Daniel Rioli was up there at one point from Richmond. I haven't seen the bounce low.
There's what he calls it on the thing, but I'll have to find it for you.
I'm very intrigued.
Yeah. But yeah, Butters is right up there. I think he's been second most of the year. So maybe he keeps an eye on that and it's just like, I'll throw an extra bounce in here. But no, I've mentioned before he takes strategic bounces, I think, because he understands where he's going. But I liked it. I like that goal, obviously. And I think those are the 2 clear front runners for the day. So I guess we'll see who the people pick. And all right, Sweeney. And I get to go first on this one. And I had a few. I'll keep my honorable mention to after. But I think just for the importance of this one and what it meant at the start of the fourth quarter, I have to go with Rosie's tackle on because I pick it from the centre bounce at the start of the fourth quarter.
In 2024, and for Port Adelaide, just got to find a way to bank the 4 points here. Sweet the tap. Rosie went off the ground. Pickett tries to explode away. Well done, Rosie. Sweet joined in as well. Just as Cozzy was busting clear, and now Connor does in the opposite direction. Dixon at the front. Massive play, Connor Rosie to start the final term.
This was it. The desperation from Rosie to grab.
Just a really battling centre bounce attendance, and Rosie's matched up on Pickett at the centre bounce as well. But they kind of run towards the ball, and Rosie gets kind of screened off of Pickett for a second, and Pickett gets out the backside of whoever the other two players on our side of the centre circle are. And Pickett goes around them. It's kind of like a screen almost, like an unintentional one.
Yeah.
But Pickett gets the ball and starts to streak away from behind them, and Rosie's just kept his beat on him and just lays just a great tackle. Holding the
assisted
ball.
by Sweet as well, I would say. Just on Sweet.
I will say I did see that, and I was like, yeah, great and again, great by Sweet, just being contested, getting in there, pressure. Like, Sweet's great for that kind of stuff. That he's really in on the battle. He did have him around the neck, and I'm glad the umpires You zoom in, and he's got him around, but then I'm like, well, because I Pickett was being a bit of a cunt on the night, so like he can cop that. So yeah, and then obviously that Rosie takes that and puts it inside 50, and Charlie Dixon marks it and kicks a goal, so and that kick starts our fourth quarter. So really great captain's effort from him. Again, he had an underrated game in that sense, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit when we get to votes. But that tackle again, the Sweeney's about warm and fuzzies, and that one really just got me going. Right at the start of the fourth quarter, there was a little bit of obviously anxiety as we're behind and going into it. That one just set me off the right, just in the right way, frame of mind for the rest of the quarter. Even though I ended up tight the whole way, I felt good.
About sliding doors moments, if Cozzy gets away, effective kick inside 50, and they get a shot on goal. Those are the fine margins sometimes. So it's definitely on my list. And funnily enough, for the little amount of goal of the week nominations we had, I actually found quite a few Sweeneys within the game.
Same,
so what I am going to go with, another one from the fourth quarter, is Zach Butters' inboard kick to Radigalia in the centre.
A lot of put on the numbers there. Rioli with a clever side step to Butters. Brave ball, but a well-executed kick. Radigalia
just a great piece of execution. One of many from Butters on the night. He's on half-back or on the wing. And at first, it looks kind of like a hospital kick. But in actual fact, he's just weighted it perfectly for Radigalia sitting there in the centre, who then gets an inside 50 from it fairly early on in the quarter as well. Just a good piece of skill execution. So love that. I think Nathan Jones lauded it in the commentary afterwards as well. Again, like just Butters, even Rosie, JHF, just being able to kick her across your body as well and effectively. Like it's just a bit silly sometimes. So going to go for that. Yeah.
No, I've noticed this across the year that you're really good at finding just nice little kicks, and because I don't recall this one, so
that's two inboard kicks in a row.
No, but I like that because it does, like, because you have an eye for that a little bit more than I do. Pick him at time, like this Jordan Sweet one last week I had as well, but this one I'll have to get the timestamp from you off air afterwards. But just. Butters had a good night as well. He built into it. I think his first half was a little quiet, but a lot of the midfield had a bit to. But when the going gets tough, the tough got going. And again, we've been seeing that they get going a lot more. I wanted to do an honourable mention for DBJ's cutting off the Tom McDonald kick outside, like they were kicking outside of the forward 50, like our forward, their defensive 50, like Tom McDonald goes to kick it out and DBJ just runs across and cuts off the kick and then puts it inside for Dixon for his first goal earlier in the game. I thought that was a really just good, again, DBJ forward defensive forward effort. So yeah,
when given the chance to put on a forward defensive effort. That's done quite well. I've actually I've blanked on that one. I didn't have it written down, so I'm interested to see it. But
you'll have to, I'll have to, it's Dixon. I mean, I assume if you go through the goals, they'd probably have that as part of the highlight because it directly leads to Dixon's first goal earlier in the game. I mean, Logan Evans selling the candy in the middle could have been a nomination if it had been a dire week. But as you said, we had a few. I think there was a Dixon fend-off at one point in the game. I've just have in my note. I didn't go back and look at it again because I found others. But I had like Dixon fend-off, possible Sweeney in my notes somewhere. So there was a few. Jace Burgoyne had a tackle at one point. I thought that'll do. Dan Houston caught someone holding the ball, I think, in the last. There was a lot of little,
there was a lot of bits and pieces around it.
Yeah, but I think we'll have another
intense, tight game. I think everything's amplified a little bit in the context of the game.
Yeah, and when it's a game like this, I'm just typing Sweeney constantly because I'm like, that was fucking good. Like, and then when
match saving.
I think I had it written down that I think Narkles keeping the ball in would have been a Sweeney if he'd actually kept it in as well. Like that probably would have been my pick.
It was definitely. I think I had it written. It was much more obvious in the end than I thought it was going to be, particularly because the umpire, his soft call was no score. It was in play.
He said no score. Did you notice?
Clearly over.
Did you notice Daisy Thomas on the fucking commentary just having a complete conniption and not understanding what was happening?
Yeah.
He's just
I think even drawing it out to be like, oh well, if it it ends up going down the other end and scoring, do they then bring it back, and what do they do about it?
I'm just like, they let the play out, and then after Rosie took the mark, they went back, and so if it had not been what it was, then it just would have been a Rosie shot on goal. So I was just like, what are you, Daisy? You're like you are paid to be a caller and provide color to these games. And
Channel 7 clearly, like, for their expert comments, they clearly don't care if these people know the rules.
If they're actually experts.
Him, BT, some of the other ones in commentary and stuff like that. They're just, again, people who are paid to either analyze the game or commentate on the game, comment on the game, just seem to throw up some really funny thoughts and opinions that they should really just be all over.
He should be able to think laterally in the moment and go, oh yeah, well it just was pretty straightforward what was going on. It's just like, they're going back to check if it went over the line. If it didn't go over the line, then it's play on, but it did. So they get the kick in and it's a point. It all worked out very easily. And Daisy's just like, I'm still a bit confused about all that. I'm just like, what is confusing for you, Mr. 200 plus gamer and a fair bit of experience and it gets paid to be a color commentator? Like, this shouldn't be that difficult, but anyway, I just thought that was quite funny. I had that in my notes as well. But
these Channel 7 games seem to pop up those kind of notes and just experts being baffled by pretty
simplest parts of footy.
Play or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and it's just like, even as us as fans that are doing, a podcast that we don't get paid or anything like that. We do this as out of love, and it's just like we have the ability to think laterally and figure out what's going on within the game as much as possible. And guys, that's their full-time job. You'd think would be a bit better with it, but
I guess it might also signal the fact that, like, you and I, we watch other sports from around the world, and we know how they kind of officiate things like VAR and other aspects of the game, whereas BT and maybe Daisy, they're just so that far into Aussie rules football, and although they're supposed to be all over the rules and adjudications and officiating of it, they're just like, what? How can this happen? Like, I'm dumbfounded.
It is, yeah, because
but like I said, it is quite simple. How the whole thing unfolded.
Yeah,
it is quite simple.
Because I mean, I watch replay in baseball, ice hockey, NBA, soccer, EPL, NFL, and they all have different words and ways in describing. And because his big thing was like, oh, but the umpire called no score. What does that mean? And I was just like, yeah, because he's saying that's what I think happened. But if it's a score, then it's just like it was such a
because he has to say something.
Yeah, I think he got twisted on the words, and I was just like, that's what he thinks happened. No score, which means it was in play.
Score. In play,
yeah. But he's just like, wait, what does he mean?
He's not
no
saying
score?
that it was out of bounds, or anything like that.
It's just, you've just got to get used to having that kind of mental elasticity to understand what the umpire is saying is an official term to indicate to the on-field umpire, like, this is what I think happened and this is what we've got to look at. Which is just, it was very easy for me to do as just a, Johnny armchair sitting there watching the game. But
Doritos on your couch. Yeah.
It might have been, what was I snacking on the night? I think it was like dill pickled chips or probably some.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell the fine listeners what delicious American snacks you're tucking into.
They have dill pickle flavored chips over here, which I mean, I know.
I'm not surprised by that.
They're fucking
Americans love pickles.
I love pickles. And
I mean, yeah, I like pickles.
There's some of the best chips you'll take. Like if you're a salt and vinegar chip fan, you'll love them because they kind of got that similar
kind of tangy.
Yeah, and they match up, and clearly pickles being kind of an accoutrement to bar food. I was drinking beers as well, so it's just like dill pickle flavored chips and beers. It's just like, Jesus, let's go.
Anyway. And great use of the word accoutrement. That's definitely one of my faves.
I have had Steve, friend of the pod, has mentioned at one point that he loves that your usage of proclivity. He's just like, he got his little thesaurus boner going, I guess.
I did, yeah. I didn't say it. This week.
I
wish I had now.
Yeah, no, you saying something about word use. I was just like, Steve's reached out about something, and I was like, it was proclivity. He was just like, it's not used enough. And I was just like, yeah, no, you're right.
It's generally used in regards to sexual proclivities, but the word proclivity does have its own meaning.
Well, if you listen to this podcast enough, you know that we have like a sexual attachment to Port Adelaide footy at times as to how excited we get about it. But
and I'm not saying that people have a sexual attachment to audio or visual YouTube. Thanks, Steve, for appreciating the word use.
It's 2024 and we're not going to kink shame, so
absolutely not. Yeah, whatever floats you go.
Yeah, I just don't want to know what you're doing while you're watching our YouTube. Anyway, Player of the Year votes. You get to go first.
All right, my votes. So yeah, another one of those games where it's like, where do I go? Apart from some of the obvious ones, but maybe a one vote for what you value in the game. Without looking at stats necessarily, but on that note, I've given my one vote to Alir. Excuse me. I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier when we were talking about Zerk Thatcher and whatnot, and honorable mention to Zerk Thatcher. Like, broadly, him and Alir as our two key posts, they absorbed a lot of pressure, and I'll get to Alir's stats in a moment, but like when in regards to 1%ers, which are true defender stats, like both of them clearly top the table for Port. So Alir, 14 disposals, 5 of which were contested, going at 93% disposal efficiency roughly. He had 5 marks, 3 of which were intercept marks, 12 1%ers, and 11 of those were spoils. So for mine, while take your pick of some other even defenders on the night in terms of stats and whatnot, a lot of Melbourne's pushes forward, he was just in the right spot and just completely killed a marking chance that they had, halved a contest to bring it to ground. He just got in the way. And when I talk about the defenders earning their salary, particularly in that first half on the night, he was definitely up there, and kind of goes off the back of some of Ken's comments recently of kind of how good a form he's in now, especially when you compare it to earlier in the season. He's just into some great positions lately. When he seems out of position, he just gets a hand in. And like, I thought that if he wasn't there, we might have been 4 goals down, maybe at quarter time or half time. I thought he played a big part in us repelling some of those attacks by Melbourne and keeping us there and thereabouts to then switch on at half time and attack the game a bit differently after then. So yeah, I wanted to give him a vote because I thought he was important in the context of the game. A guy who I didn't have in my votes originally, but through just weight of reflection and just looking at it objectively, Travis Boak gets my 2. It would probably be a crime to not get him somewhere in the votes. 29 disposals, going at 86%. Another one who sometimes has the people have that perception that he kind of burns or can burn the ball at times, going at a good rate. 3 clearances of his own, 8 inside 50s and 2 rebound 50s, 553 meters gained, which is up there in a pack of similar players within that range at the top of our table. 5 tackles, 9 marks and 17 pressure acts. So for a guy who, for all intents and purposes, is another role player, particularly where he is in his career, to be putting up some of the numbers that he's putting up recently and just being involved as that senior leader, which particularly in our lesser periods of the year, just needing that senior leadership on the ground and knowing what to do when it comes to this time of the season. He's really coming into his own at the right time of the year. And knowing Boakey like we all do, it is probably by design that he is seemingly peaking while the team is peaking at this point of the year. And yeah, I thought he was fantastic on the night. My 3 votes goes to Connor Rozee. I had him higher up again initially in the aftermath of the game, and that was probably due to the fact that he had such a great last quarter that he was very front of mind. Well, he had a great second half. I think out of his 28 disposals, I think 20 of them came in the second half alone. So they mentioned his low disposal count in the first half. I don't know if someone was putting a job on him or he just found himself out of position a lot of the time. Numbers like that probably would say that someone was putting a bit of effort into him, but either scenario, to bounce back from that and have a palpable effect on your team's fortunes, particularly late, is just a testament to his work rate and his belief in his own game, and deserved of some votes. So yeah, 28 disposals, like I said, 6 clearances, 2 from the center, 8 inside 50s and 2 rebound 50s as well. 536 meters gained. So again, up there with that pack of players, 5 tackles and 22 pressure acts. So again, something that we've kind of made a focus on recently. 5 tackles and 22 pressure acts were up near the top of our table in Port Adelaide, in regards to Port Adelaide. And again, goes against some of that opinion of his non-accountable or non-contested, that perception on him by certain sections of in and outward football fans. The next 2 probably go without saying. 4 votes goes to Zach Butters. He's had a really good couple of weeks, Zach Butters. 30 disposals in this one, 13 of which were contested. Now, going off the back of the comments on Connor Rozee, some of Zach Butters' games this year, he's had high disposals but low contested numbers, whereas this one was a great overall game with high disposal and a higher contested quotient in that. 5 clearances, 5 inside 50s, 5 rebound 50s, so very equal in terms of where he is running and working hard. 579 meters gained. Again, we had a good pack of players with similar meters gained numbers. 5 marks and 15 pressure acts for Zach Butters. I saw him. He got some coaches' votes as well, which is fair. He had that really rough patch when he was getting a lot of attention, but he's relishing off of a couple of teams who haven't put the work into him in that regard, and he's benefited from it. My best on ground is obvious at this point. Jason Horne-Francis, to quickly run off his stats: 28 disposals, 11 of which were contested, 2 clearances, which one was from the centre, 5 inside 50s, 2 rebounds, 520 meters gained, 2 tackles inside 50, 13 marks, 3 of which were intercepts. 13 marks, like you just said before, is ridiculous, and 12 pressure acts. The 2 tackles inside 50, funnily enough, you were mentioning earlier about our low tackle number inside 50, and the 2 that he did on his own, I think, was up there overall because we didn't have that many. So he's really maturing as a player. He's obviously getting a lot of plaudits in the media for some of these performances, but it's just that willingness to get your team over the line, which is just obvious at this point. He's just doing whatever he can. His footy IQ is just always coming to the fore. Like, I don't think anyone maybe would have told him to be the +1 back. I think that would have just been him inserting himself into the situation of the game. And as I mentioned before, it's been said that if he wasn't playing, we would have lost, and probably lost by a few goals. It's probably true. Hard to say without, having a portal to another universe, but his presence was felt, and it's that impact per possession that I think is really being noted by a lot of people in the AFL landscape. And Saturday night's game goes off the back of those comments.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you won't. There's a few differences in my votes, but not all the players are the same. But I do have my one vote with Aaliyah as well. It was basically between him and Dan Houston for that one spot, and I ultimately went with Aaliyah. Basically, just because, as you said, you felt like the defense was under a lot of pressure, and he's been marshalling so well the last few weeks and last 8 weeks really. And I think since we've restructured down there, him and Zerk Thatcher have an understanding. Apart from, again, I said at one point in the game that Zerk Thatcher spoiled a Lear marking attempt, but beyond that, those mistakes are few and far between now. Whereas 10 weeks ago, we were probably mentioning these things a bit more. And Aaliyah is in all Australian form again, whether I don't think he gets into the team based off of the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season. And not that he was bad, it's just like the structure was a bit different, so it didn't allow him to do what he's been doing the last 8 to 10 weeks as much. So he was great again. I've got my 2 votes, which is now my 2 through 4 are almost opposite to you. And it's basically, I struggled with it, and it's purely play. Like I moved them around a little bit and had a few different ideas, but my 2 votes, and I feel bad for him because I think I think all these guys these 3 have a case for being second best to field, but Zach Butters fell into the 2 spot, and I have it written in my notes. Unlucky to be this low. I think he had one of his better games in the last 8 to 10 weeks. I think he was incredible. All 4 of these guys in the next few votes are just it's so crucial to the win. As you said, his contested numbers were really up there, led the team with those. Obviously popped up with his typical Butters goal, and just felt like as the game wore on, his influence became greater. Obviously he had his little bit of niggle and all those things, like just the quintessential Zach Butters game that almost on any other day is going to be best of field. But obviously Horne-Francis, it's no secret that he'll end up topping mine. But Butters just ended up falling in the 2 spot for me. So, Rosie gets the 3, which was the same as your votes. Thought he, as you said, like 8 inside 50s, which tied with Boak to lead the team, 6 clearances leading the team in that aspect of it. Had the 5 tackles, which was tied with JC Burgoyne and Willem and DBJ, and then the meters gained, and just a real captain's effort. Obviously, at the last quarter, he set the pace and kind of the standard with that tackle on Cozzy that I nominated for the Sweeney. and from then on we go on to win. So you just got to, we've had so many times that we've talked about how he's underrated in certain aspects of his game, and as you said, the pressure acts, and then being one of the leading tacklers on the team. With his, what it still looks like a slight frame, he's a lot stronger than he looks, but he still does kind of just have a slight
absolutely.
frame. Sometimes it's how he looks from afar, and I think that's what sometimes gives him that, like unfair criticism that people lay on him, that he's soft just because they just have a 2-second look at him and don't give his game much of a look. But he had a real
From
captain's game.
If I can just interject, I think from a physiological point of view, he's put a lot of stock into making sure his core is the highest point of strength for him, and obviously his zipping in and out of congestion, his legs are also, particularly his thighs. It seems that's where his main focus in terms of physical preparation lies, and that's obviously makes him hard to tackle and affects his sideways movement with the strength in his legs. So I think they were walking off the ground after the game, and I think him and Boki were actually side by side, and his top end, looks quite narrow compared to Boki's. Is a bit broader shoulders, which goes off the back of your comments in terms of how it looks from afar. And I guess the beauty of Aussie rules football, for any body type and whatnot, and where your strength lies within your own body and how that can contribute to your game.
There's
I also like that kind of shit. Physical preparation and training.
And it's actually like occasionally through my picture searching or whatever for graphics and whatnot, occasionally one of the draft photos or one of the first photos of Rosie in a port kit will pop up, and he has put on a lot of, like, you forget how much bulk he's put on, but he has, like, cause he has that little like the number one on the sides and a little coiffed on top, and then like these skinny arms. It's just like like he's a much fuller framed player than you think of. Speaking of Boak, I had him in my 4, and my 5 and 4 I had right away, and I stuck with it. I just don't think we went, like, JHF was the game breaker. I think Boak had one of his best games of the last 2 years for me on Saturday night. I just was so impressed with, as you mentioned, his disposal efficiency was really good, which is, again, something that players like him, and we've talked about Wines at times, like him and Wines have just quietly just really improved on some of those aspects of the game. Wines also had a really good game as well. But Boak was taking marks in defense. He was taking good kicks into, like, I think Dixon's first shot that he missed was from a really nice Boak inside 50 kick. And just around that, his pressure, his tackles, all that stuff, he was ever present in the game. As much as I noticed the likes of the young guns, I noticed Boak, which sometimes this year, even when he's gotten votes from us, it's just like he's gotten votes because he's had some efforts. But this game, he was always present. In a tight tussle, I just found that so important. I was like, as much as Rosie had a captain's effort in the last quarter, I thought, Boak had the former captain's senior leader. Spiritual leader effort. And this is a bloke that just turned 36 in the last couple of weeks. I'm 36. I walked to the post office today, and I got back and had to take, like, I just had to lay on a couch for, like,
I could take a moment.
I just had to sit down. Just like, whereas Travis Boak's going out and getting into an absolute fucking fist fight with the Melbourne Footy Club, and which, wherever you may think of where Melbourne are at, are clearly one of the form sides of the last 4 or 5 years as far as being a premiership winner and the players they've got. And Boak just went out there in 36 and said, I'm going to be one of the lead players on this day, and had a great effort. So I was really impressed with that and had to give him 4.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make. Like, just kind of playing as if he is still got the number 1 on his back. Like when you say that, it does sum up kind of that game and even some of the other games really recently, like the game away against Carlton as well. And a passage of play against the Bulldogs, kind of when they had a bit of a lift in the middle quarters when we played them at home. And yeah, again, and he kicked one inside 50, I think, to Georgiadis in that game in particular, and it just settled the whole thing down. And having someone like that on your team is invaluable, especially at this time of the year.
And as you noted, he seems to be building into the season quite well, which is nice. But yeah, obviously my 5 votes goes to Jason Horne-Francis. Yeah, as I said, he broke the game open both in both 50 arcs as well as all his work in between, and had one of the most rounded games he's had. It wasn't like full of the highlights that we've seen from some Jason Horne-Francis moments, but as far as an actual full spectrum 4-quarter game with the different efforts he had, I think it's one of his best ones he's had. And it's just pure aura. I think aura has been popping around as a new social media. Well, it's not a new social media term, but it's just a popular.
Those kids.
Yeah, colloquialism at the moment. But yeah, his aura in this game was just absolutely on time. And as I mentioned, 360 just kind of mentioned it and touched on that aura in the sense of how you said the effect of his disposals feels so much more heightened at times, and I think that's kind of what people are talking about, is just his impact on the game just feels so much larger than every single disposal. When he's playing a game like this, it feels like his 28 disposals are actually worth 42 if you take it at a 1.5 number or something like that. It's just and out of all the guys that we had big game winners for us in the night, I think Horne-Francis was the untouchable game winner. He was just so important to it. So, yeah, a unanimous best on ground for us, which I think we've done probably most of the year. We've been pretty in lockstep. I think there's been a couple of games, though, we've had differences there. But, yeah, this was one that was pretty obvious who was going to be a best on ground, I think, throughout all the voting, throughout whether it be coaches' votes. So the coaches' votes were like 7. But, yeah, a lot of
just on the coaches' votes as a whole across the league, he's the top Port Adelaide player for coaches' votes, and I'm pretty sure he may be in the top 10, if not the top 15 in the league.
I haven't actually had a look at
coaches' votes.
I haven't actually had a look at the overall because I knew we weren't up there. Last year I was keeping a fair eye on it with Butters being right up there. But
and with Rosie's injury in the middle of the year and whatnot, and Butters going in and out in terms of his tag, we've kind of had different players collecting a bit similar to our votes, really. Different players have different patches where they're up the top of our votes and whatnot. So it's been kind of even across the board. I saw it the other day, which was pretty surprising on one hand, but not really on the other.
Yeah.
But good that he's getting that recognition, and now it goes behind closed doors for the next 2 rounds in terms of coaches' votes.
It does, yeah. As my voice breaks. It'll be interesting. I think it's a good problem. I think it's actually not a bad thing to have players stealing coaches' votes from each other. Obviously, you want to see someone win it, but Butters won it last year. I think at the moment, the way our season's been going, I'm just fine with the guys that have come in and out. But we're hitting kind of everyone finding a way to contribute at the moment, which is perfect. Which leads us to a game that we really want them all to contribute and contribute well. It's round 23. Round 23. It's round 23. Showdown versus them. Adelaide Crows, Adelaide Oval. This Saturday night, a massive home game. Our last home game before some hopeful home finals. But Saturday Night Lights at Adelaide Oval, 7 p.m. What could be maybe a little bit of a wintry night, depending on how the weather develops over the next few days. I don't know if you can tell me what's happening on the ground there. It looks like there's some weather coming in the next couple of days there for you guys. So it could be maybe a little bit of wet weather, which could make it interesting and possibly be a bit of an advantage for us considering their tall timber. But yeah, it's a really intriguing battle coming up. Obviously, the Crows coming off a really impressive win at home against the Western Bulldogs, who just never want to see Adelaide Oval again, it seems. But yeah, a lot of intriguing factors to this one. Obviously, I think off the top, it's just the fact that we haven't won a showdown since Robbie Gray last graced the fields in a Port Adelaide Guernsey, which just when I think about it in that context really makes me mad because one, wish we could clone him and just have him forever. But two,
absolutely.
it has been 2 years since he last graced the field for us, and we still haven't won one since then. So it's a lot of storylines getting into it. Your general feels on it before we get into a couple of stats stuff.
Oh, I'm fucking anxious as all hell.
Right there with you.
I want to break the fucking ridiculous hoodoo that some would say we've brought upon ourselves, and I want to beat them. It's been too long, especially when you put it in that context. But my feelings are that I think we'll have a big task ahead of us, and I hope that we are in the right mental space to attack it on Saturday night.
Yeah. I found it interesting, I guess, to ask you the question, because I have thoughts on a lot of this stuff. I keep them mostly off Twitter because it becomes a cesspool when you talk about it. But obviously the Darcy Fogarty comments in the last 24 hours, which I actually have no problem with. His wording, I'm just like the cherry on top of what, which some people have said. I'm like, just like, what are you putting the cherry on top of? Like, that's the thing. But I don't mind it in the same sense that I never had problems with whatever we came out with in previous years. I'm like, I have this thing that I get so frustrated with some Port Adelaide fans, some Crows fans as well, that are like, oh man, why are they putting out all this scripted shit? I'm like, this is a rivalry. We do hate each other. Like, whether or not, you're friends with a Crows fan.
Why are you trying to ignore it?
Yeah. Especially like I've spent almost 7 years of my life now living in the US over the years on and off. And you watch like the Philadelphia Eagles versus like the Dallas Cowboys, for example. You'd have like an Eagles fan won't say any of that shit. They'll be like, fuck you, fuck your mother, fuck your kid, fuck your fucking
Two
cat.
of America's teams.
Yeah. Fuck your fucking cat. I will kick your fucking cat. Fuck Texas barbecue, Philly cheesesteaks all the way. I fucking hate you. I'm going to destroy you. I fucking hate you. And the players will say that too. Everyone, that's what and they play each other twice a year. It's individual. They play each other every year. And that's how the attitude is like, we fucking hate each other. There's no bones about it. Why can't, when a player, like when Ryan Burton's been kind of like persona non grata since he came out and said that. I'm like, why? What's wrong with that? And then everyone's like, it's scripted. I'm like, well, okay, he's a representative of the Port Adelaide Football Club. The Port Adelaide Football Club's like, yeah, we hate them. And Ryan Burton's like, yeah,
I don't think anyone told him to say it. And I'm pretty sure someone asked him the question about how he feels.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's just like, and I don't like, my brother, who is one of my best friends in my life, is like a Crows fan. Like, I don't hate the people that are Crows fans. Some I do, but the people in my life that are Crows fans, I love them. But
we all know a few of them for sure.
But like when it comes to an actual rivalry, like just fucking embrace it. Like that's why I'm like Darcy Fogarty. I'm like, yeah, your wording's wrong to me because I'm like, I don't know what you're putting a cherry on top of. But like, I'm like, yeah, fucking. If I was in that position, I'd want the same. I'd want my players. I'd want my young forward that's just played his 100th game to come out and say something like that. He's a beast of a player and someone we've got to worry about this weekend, certainly. I've had no problem with this coming up. And people go, oh, we're setting ourselves up for failure. It's like, no, the game's going to be won or lost based on factors outside of what is said in a press conference on a fucking Monday or Tuesday. If you're putting that much weight on those things, then it's much more about your anxieties than it is about that, I think. Yeah. Embrace the fucking rivalry. Fucking, get Philly Dallas about it. Yeah.
Yeah, Merseyside.
Exactly.
But, a game that's played with 18 players per side on the field, it comes down to more than one person or two people's comments in the media, and then on top of that, what Guernsey you decide to wear. They don't swing the needle that far. But unfortunately, we've let ourselves down recently. And if you want to say, Port Adelaide have talked the talk, but they haven't walked the walk, feel free to, because the results would
because that can
confirm your comment.
And that can be true too. Like it's like the fact that comments don't actually have any bearing on the game and how it's played is true. Also, the fact we said them but didn't back it up on game day is also true. Like, all these things, they're not mutually exclusive. It's like the game is a lot more nuanced than I say words on one day and then we lose, then that means the words had a massive effect. It's like, no, it's not that. It's just like it's just coincidences, unfortunately on our side, negative ones.
Well, and personally, I don't believe all of the club's efforts to try and wear the prison bar Guernsey leading up to when we eventually got to, I don't think any of that affected any outcomes for the players. Like, the players don't enter those discussions and whatnot.
Just a side note to that, look at Freo lost in their retro. Carlton just had their season get blown apart in their 150 year. This stuff is all coincidence. It doesn't have anything to do with, Freo battling some injury. Carlton got decimated. Like, teams, because I had someone reply to me when I posted about, and a friend of the pod and a friend of the Twitter account, can't remember who it was, but I just remember it being a familiar account. When I posted that, I received my 20th anniversary Premiership Guernsey. It's like, I don't buy those anymore because they're always attributed to failure. And I'm like, well, the one that we wore last year, we actually beat GWS pretty handedly in, but these things are all just coincidence. It comes down to preparation.
And the last time we won we wore the 04 Premiership Guernsey, we beat Brisbane by 114 points. So like
2020, the first time we got to wear the prison bars in a showdown, we won by 75 or whatever it was. Yeah, unfortunately in front of 2,000. But there's examples both ways, which actually means none of it matters. Yeah. It comes down to actual game day stuff.
Yeah. And in that regard, I hope we prepare very well this week and we break the little hoodoo that we've got ourselves into, like I said before. Because the Adelaide Crows, as per the last 7 years, aren't playing for anything except to annoy teams who are actually playing finals, which looks like we're pretty certain to be playing finals. As I touch wood, because I think it's still mathematically possible that we drop out, funnily enough. They do match up well against us. I think that's the better point over the last couple of years is I think that they just generally match up well against us. They set up their game plan to expose our weaknesses, and frustratingly enough, I think we've played into those on recent occasions. Now, we both believe that while, yes, we did play into some of those weaknesses in regards to maybe dump kicking or whatnot, in the first showdown this year, we still both believe that had we kicked straight, we would have won that game and probably should have had the goals and behinds been switched around. So maybe they take a little bit from that because the Crows side overall is fairly inexperienced as a whole. They're obviously playing a lot of young players with sights on future seasons for them and hopefully to their benefit. Hopefully not, from my point of view.
Agreed.
They come off buoyed against a win, from a win against a team who's seemingly allergic to Adelaide Oval, with their recent records in showdowns. And one thing's for sure is that particularly early, it's going to be a contested showcase. But we've got bigger fish to fry, and this is just a stepping stone towards that, hopefully.
Yeah. This is the kind of, because we do have to go over and like our last round games, obviously against Freo and in Perth, which is going to be an intriguing battle, depending on where Freo's health is, because they're battling a few issues, but it's still always a tough task going over there. And we need to win this one to go over to Freo with a chance at locking up top four, depending on how other results fall this weekend. We don't know that stuff yet, but we win this one, we can go over and lock up a pretty good position in Freo and play for that chance. But we can't look ahead from this one. It is interesting looking at, I did note down a few of the stats from there because I watched the full game against the Dogs Adelaide game because I wanted to, it was on at a good time here and I was able to, just wanted to get some, future scouting and it was really interesting. Obviously, the Crows benefit from a lot of their just there was a freedom they played with, and we've seen this a lot of times whenever they're playing a team that they're not expected to beat. Sometimes is when they do really unlock things, and certainly,
and once the season's done,
yes, exactly. It's no secret that Isaac Rankin, and I will be facetious about the Crows as much as I want to, but I'll be objective as well. And Isaac Rankin's one of the best players in the league when he's at full flight. He has come back into the side. Obviously, he came back from suspension, so he wasn't injured. So he's come back in fully fit and fine, just not with it. But he was playing pretty well on the weekend. We'll have to figure that one out. But they're not like, Dawson kind of isn't quite, Dawson when he was kind of figure number one at the club, and he's still very, very important, but he's not the All-Australian player that, people they were trying to put him in there the last couple of years, but he's not there at that level this year. I think they're still trying to figure out the mix a little bit. Rankin's clearly the future. They're just trying to figure out the mix, but they got it a little bit more right on the weekend. But looking at some of the stats, the Dogs had 59 inside 50s to the Crows 43. Now, you wouldn't think that looking at the scoreline, but watching the game, I was like, the Dogs are burning a lot of... I think it was Sam Darcy had like 0 goals 5 or something like that.
5, yeah.
Yeah. They weren't getting kicks from good opportunity. Like a lot of their kicks were from like 35 to 45, 50 out, which was probably part of the problem.
Mentioned that as well. He was on AFL 360 and his post-match press conference. Yeah.
Yeah. But, their disposal efficiency, there's efficiency inside 50. The Crows are averaging 46 for the year. They had 60% on the weekend. So they really excelled on that stuff. Whereas the Dogs are slightly below their 50% with 45%. Another factor that we're going to have to battle, and you kind of touched on a little bit talking about Sweet earlier, like, Riley O'Brien. Tim English was injured and has been battling injury, and that came up, I think, on 360 as well. 59 hit-outs to 22. It was just complete domination on that front. Still, the clearances, the Dogs were managed to even that up a little bit, but they just weren't getting. They had to kind of, do a lot of reading and trying to figure out what's going on because they weren't going to get first look from English much in the game. So, but there's different things like that in the game that you look at and just go, the Crows benefited from just playing in a free way, a little bit bright. Like they are very good at going from defense to attack very quickly. I've seen it a few times in a few games I've watched over the last few weeks. There was a goal a few weeks ago. I can't remember who they were playing. It might have been the Essendon game or something like that. I watched a few games over the last few weeks when they've been on a good time, just looking forward to this one. And they sometimes get from defense to goal within 10, 15 seconds. And Fogarty's a big part of that. But yeah, there a few other things that we're going to have to look at is, they're ranked third in contested possessions. They're ranked fifth in tackles per game, ranked first in hit-outs per game as well. Those are kind of, and ranked fifth in 1%ers per game. It's like three things that when we're down, that's where the games are lost for us, that's where they're up, and that's kind of speaks to a little bit of probably why we've lost three of the last three showdowns. And but we've improved in some of those areas over the last 6 weeks as well. So it does provide a really intriguing kind of canvas for this game to be painted on because the Crows are doing a lot of those things. They brought it up on 360 or one of the shows, like how the Crows are just having that late season run they've had for 3 years in a row where they win.
On the couch.
Yeah, it was on the couch. It was one. I knew it was one of the. Yeah, he was kind of quite scathing about it. Actually, like just don't keep buying into your own bullshit. I think he was what he was trying to say, but they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but for us, we have to look at it based on what it is right now, and it's like, yeah, they are in decent form all of a sudden, and we are the ones under pressure coming into this one because for all eight, again to be objective and say, yeah, Darcy Fogarty's right. They're not going to end our season, but they can put a dent in our hopes by winning this one. And we certainly have a little bit of pressure on us from the fan base to right the wrongs of the last three showdowns. It makes for a really intriguing battle. I mean, the weather will be interesting to see how it is on the night, but them having Thilthorpe back over the last, even though he hasn't set the world on fire, but he's such a physical presence all of a sudden, and he has been playing okay. Fogarty's clearly come into some really good form, and Fogarty's goal kicking, his accuracy is so we've got to
it's
try.
Always been top notch.
Yeah, we've got to try and restrict him to if he's getting more than 3 or 4 shots a game, we're going to be in trouble. So it's going to be some of those structural things, which as you've said, we've been pretty good with. there's a lot of changes from where we've been playing from where we were playing back then to now. We've had a lot of changes too. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Matchups will be very, very interesting because obviously, yeah, we'll be waiting with bated breath as to how Georgiadis pulls up.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, and well, Taylor Walker has had eye surgery, and he's not playing. So now they went from 3 big tools now back to 2.
I'd completely missed out on that news. That he did get poked in the eye on the weekend.
He got poked in the eye. Yeah,
I was watching that happen.
Required eye surgery.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's not playing. Because one of my thoughts in and around off the back of their game and then leading into this weekend was whether we swing Asava back for this
I had the
week.
same thought.
Because obviously we know what happened last time. I think it was Zerk Thatcher was lined up on Tex, and then they put Lockie Jones on Darcy Fogarty, who kicked 2 quick goals to start the game, and then they flicked the switch and Asava matched up on Fogarty for the rest of the game and actually held up quite well, I thought. Excuse me. And yeah, now so the variable is now with Thilthorpe and how accountable they want to make Aaliyah and how much trust they have in Zerk Thatcher off the back of what is objectively a pretty good season that he's had. He's been holding up really well and had some key matchups across the whole year, to be fair, and held up quite well. So I think the forecast is rain potentially in the morning, so it might not actually matter come the start of the match. And then, yeah, they've kind of got their defensive structure is quite spread, like a lot of mediums to talls that kind of will chip in. So we just need to, I think we've shown at certain stages this year that while, yes, we are capable of dumping it inside 50, and like I've said, a lot of teams actually do that when they're under pressure to their big forwards. I think we have shown, particularly in the last 6 weeks, a propensity more to lower our eyes and look for better options. Coming off the back of the game on the weekend against Melbourne doesn't really match what I'm saying, granted, but I think in some of our better games and better performances recently, we've tapped into more avenues inside 50 than just dumping it on someone's head. Now, we also have had the benefit of, if we do dump it, we've had 2 pretty big guys to halve the contest there. So again, if Asava's being moved back for this week, how does that change our forward entries? There's a lot of interesting question marks, and that's just both ends of the ground. Whereas, like, I think the game will really be just one in the midfield, and that's an obvious football thing to say. It's a bit of a footy platitude, really, because it's obvious. But yeah, Saligo won the showdown medal. In the first showdown, you just mentioned Rankin having such a big impact in the middle. I think Dawson was their highest fantasy points rated player, because although he has been down overall in regards to, I think, how his season was last year, he had one of his better games. So I hope it stays as one of his better games last week. I hope they've all got that out of their system. And yeah, players like fucking Crouch and Laird tend to always lift for these type of games, as you would probably expect. I think they're relying a lot on some of these senior players still, with the sprinkling of the talent that they do have, but their bottom 6 is quite inexperienced and young. So it's potentially something that we have to really expose, because while we do have our own spread of youth, I think overall our experience level and our age is just a bit more senior to them and a bit more further along, how both of our teams match up right now. So if we can, excuse me, halve some of these contests on the top end, yeah, hopefully we can expose them on the bottom end and maybe target some of their younger and experienced players.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did Jordan Sweet play in the last showdown? I'm trying to think where that fell in there in our weird rotation
Yeah, if
of
I'm to put a guess, I don't think so.
yeah, because I was just thinking about I'm going to Google it right now while we're talking, but it's Logan Evans, obviously his first showdown, which is big for him, which is cool. And he's obviously we've been talking about it a bit this podcast episode already. That he's just been having such a wonderful year. I'm trying to think, it was round 8 that we played the Crows last time. First, yeah. So yeah, I'm just getting it up now. Um, as my slow old iPad just slowly cranks through the motions here. Um, but yeah, we could have potentially a couple of showdown debutants here, which is fun for us as a team.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm just where's Hitouts? There we go. That'll tell me. No, he did play the last one, so there we go. So yeah, Jordan Sweet's playing his second showdown. He actually had he had 29 hitouts to Riley O'Brien's 40 last time round. So AFL fantasy points, Jordan Sweet slightly one out on, which probably goes is probably he's probably a bit more handy around the ground a little bit more than Riley
Yeah,
O'Brien.
yeah.
But
So it's a
yeah,
similar matchup to the Grundy matchup for mine.
mm,
As a lesser experienced ruckman, just halve it as best as you can, then hopefully just expose O'Brien around the ground. Excuse
yeah,
me. Whether that be, yeah, getting dirty on the ground and affecting ground balls and clearance and stuff like that, or yeah, getting your goal on your opposition ruckman like he did it against Grundy in the end,
yeah,
which is something that I asked for. So I'm asking for it now.
mm,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
because yeah, O'Brien, if anything, he's just he's going to be up there in hitouts. That's just what he's always been.
yeah. It's kind of
So
like what we
yeah,
are talking about Bontempelli back. It's just like as you said, halve the contest, keep guys to a certain par. Like there's kind of you don't want to let any of these players go above what your expectation is of them, or if you want to just slightly lower that a little bit. If that happens around the ground, no one gets off the leash, then someone's always going to get off the leash here and there. But if you can kind of manage it and on the average across the game, uh, what are you thinking, head and heart? I guess on if it's matched up in the showdowns are always a unique one to
yeah,
try
I
to
think it's
do
going to
this.
be tight. I
Yeah.
think the Crows are objectively in a good patch of form. They're
Hmm.
playing with freedom. They've got the confidence coming off the back of their recent record against us, and we have that to battle, whether like internally, mentally, or not. Yeah, I guess the pessimist in all Port Adelaide fans says that while we've been playing fantastic football by and large for the last 6 weeks, yeah, this would be a game that we're prone to dropping on the way to finals. And look, we weren't expected to win any of our last 5 games, and we're 3-0 up to this point. So look, realistically, I would expect to lose one of this or the next game. It'd be a pretty fantastic effort to go 5-0 for our last 5 weeks. I just really, really want to win this one, and
Yeah.
then whatever happens in Perth the next week happens. But so yeah, I expect it to be a battle. Um, to go against my comments about being slightly more senior and more experienced, we do still have that level of inexperience about us. So yeah, I don't expect it to be any bigger than a 2-goal margin or
Yeah.
there and thereabouts, should I say. And I'm desperately hoping that it's towards our favor.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking sub 20 as well myself. I don't know where it falls in that range, but yeah, I can't imagine it being much more than that. And again, as I said, I hope it's in our favour. Yeah,
Mm.
obviously. And I think our best footy in the last 3 or 4 weeks has shown that we can do that. Obviously, the midfield mix we've started to figure out how to work
It's very
through.
balanced
Yeah, and
in comparison
certainly,
to last game.
yeah, yeah, and Rosie was that the game that he played half of and then
That
went
was the
out.
hamstring. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that was
So
the
there's some
game
of
he
that.
shouldn't have played and then got subbed off.
And Jones went off with concussion, I think, in that
Yes.
one. Yeah, so there's some mitigating
Or
factors
or
that you
he
can look.
I don't know if it was concussion, but he played a good game and then got injured late, I think.
Yeah. So there's some, you could call them mitigating factors about how that game went, which, knock on wood, that doesn't happen this one. But yeah, Rosie certainly in a shitload better form than he was then. And where obviously I think a lot of the other players are too, the growth across the season. Willem Drew will probably might have an interesting role depending on who he's tasked with going with a little bit, which he will be on this. I think it's just they've got too many. They do have a fair few good players running through there. They can damage the game, and he will be tasked with a little bit of that. And it'll be interesting to see if they try to do a little bit of that in return to us. And then, we've kind of figured out ways to battle against that a little bit over the last few weeks. So, yeah.
And it's an interesting point you make because, one would say that if Rankin's in the middle, then you would hope that Drew puts a bit of attention into him. And I would imagine Adelaide's way to combat that if Drew's getting on top is to put Rankin forward. But now, in comparison to when we played them last, is our smaller defenders in Logan Evans and Miles Bergman weren't in those positions last time, and I feel that they're better equipped to combat that when we had Ryan Burton and I can't even remember who the other kind of defenders were that were playing on in that vicinity at the time, but. Bergman was on a wing and Logan Evans wasn't even on an AFL list. So, playing a bit of chess in my head. For some of those magnet switches, I think we're better equipped to combat them this time around. Yeah.
I think that really the only question we've got is our forward line. Otherwise, I think, a back line and middle are pretty strong, and then we've just got to figure out and going inside forward. And again, Jason Horne-Francis might have to go up forward and kick a couple of goals as he did in the last showdown.
He nearly sparked the turnaround in the last showdown. And look, touch wood, surely we can't kick as fucking poorly as we did in that game again.
Yeah.
Honestly, and even and
5 goals,
I tend
18.
to think that our kicking overall has been better in recent weeks than it was earlier in the season. I think it was. Yeah, we've had some games recently where the behinds have kind of blown out a bit more than we would have liked, but we've both said that it's been more general play stuff and some party time stuff, some kicking in hope, whereas I think our set shot goal kicking has actually improved in recent times. So
probably the worst proponent of it is a Sava, which there's reasons for that. So I'm not blaming him for it. He's just, that's not the role he was tasked with at the start of the year. So
but if that'll be just a really fascinating watch where he sits in the game, because he needs to impact wherever he's placed, whether it be forward or back. Looking forward to that on the weekend for sure.
No, it's going to be a fascinating watch. Again, 7 p.m. Saturday night, which means 2:30 for me on Friday night / Saturday morning, which will be fun. I'll definitely be up for it, of course, as I have been for everyone this year. And really hoping we can finally get back on the winning side of a showdown. It's been too long since we've been able to enjoy one of those. And beyond the city bragging rights and the state bragging rights, it's really important for our season going forward to get the chocolates here and really keep giving ourselves the platform that we've been really, really good at doing in finding ourselves in second above the craziness of this crazy season. We've done really, really well, and it should be lauded, the position we've got ourselves in, but the job's not done. So we've got to keep going this weekend, and regardless of the opposition, just treat it like any other, and obviously respect the fact it's a showdown.
Exactly right.
It's just like, this is just a game on the way to bigger and better things for us this year, hopefully. So that's all there is to say. We've just got to anxiously wait now until Saturday night, and hopefully we have some nails left by then, and we can go get through the game in a sane and safe manner. Embrace the rivalry. That's all I got to say to finish this one off. That's fun
exactly right.
Fun about this stuff.
Do the bars proud.
Do the bars proud. Absolutely. And yeah, shortly the women are going to be playing in them as well. So really exciting times at the Port Adelaide Footy Club. That's about it. Nothing more to say. Calm the pair, beat the fucking Crows, get it done.
That's it, boys. Come on, Port.